We're going to get started here this morning. First thing we'll have is a prayer and a pledge of allegiance, and Henry's going to lead us, if he will.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for blessing us to see another day. Lord, to come out and conduct business of the county. Lord, we thank you for the privilege to serve. We ask your blessings upon the citizens of this county, and that they may benefit from the decisions that are made here today. Lord, we ask your guidance and direction as we go through this meeting. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll call this meeting to order. The first thing on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. We have a couple of changes we need to make. We'll have a presentation before the citizens' comments. Also, we're going to move Mike Scott up to beginning of the department reports. He needs to get out of here early, and his voice is failing, he says. Next, under Timmy Hedgepeth, we're going to add a surplus equipment that needs to be added to that. And then under Morgan Jethro, we've got a reappoint Coastal Resources Advisory Committee representative, and also number 7, we'll have some surplus vehicles. Any other questions? We'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second? Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. We have a set of minutes for January 4th and the evening minutes of January 18th. Is that right? January 18th. Y'all have had the minutes. Have y'all seen any changes you need to make in them?
Mr. Chairman, on page 1019, under citizens' comments, the comment was made that William Roundtree discussed a water main extension on Roundtree Lane. The county will pay the engineer's drawing.
Actually, William was going to pay that. Yeah, William.
Yeah.
The county will not pay for the drawing, basically.
Yeah. He may have requested, but the county is not paying.
Right. Are there anything else?
Mr. Chairman, on page 1019, down in citizens' comments, where it says Dan Bazemore, the second sentence, the word "it" should be changed, and also the word "they" is typographical errors, I think. It didn't sound quite right to me.
It should be if
If the
instead of
water-
If,
Yeah.
if,
That's
and,
right.
and then.
and then. Okay.
Then why? It should be if.
Okay, and then.
All right, if there's no other changes, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes for the 4th and the 18th as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Next on our agenda, we're going to have a presentation of an award. Sydney, would you come up here a minute? Sydney helped us during the summer working on the project at the schoolhouse, trying to help us determine what to do with that. And also, he worked on the courthouse, I believe, a little bit. It was his suggestion and his information that led us to the North Carolina Historic Preservation and the people that bought the Sunbury School to preserve it. And we wanted to thank him. He done a great job working for us as an intern for State, North Carolina State, if I'm right. Yeah. So we've got a plaque here, and it says, "Presented to Sidney Ralph Pierce III in recognition for your research and contribution regarding the Sunbury School properties on February 1st, 2011. Thank you. Next, before we start, I've got a letter I'd like to read to everybody. This is addressed to the commissioners. This is a note of thanks to express my sincere gratitude for the blessing my mother, Irma Parker, has received on behalf of your office. It's been a great honor to her to be one of the few that county had blessed with a brand-new home. In this short time she has occupied her new residence, it has brought her so much joy and exposed her to the world of hope and possibility that she had only dreamed about. Because of your office, she can now adjust her heat and air with a click of a button. She's experiencing comfort in a way that she's never known before. We thank you tremendously again for the kindness you have shown to us throughout this process. We are truly blessed beyond measure because of your office and staff." This is from Ms. Connie Parker for her mother, Ms. Irma Parker. All right, next on the agenda, we got the citizens' comments. First on the list, Wade Askew.
Good morning, citizens, board, and Mr. Chairman.
Come on, Wade.
My name is Wade Askew from Yor. You know, a lot of people don't have a very good relationship sometimes with their in-laws, but my father-in-law was very special to me. It seems like every day I learned something from him, and I cherished the 20-some years that I had to spend with him. My father-in-law grew up on the farm, but he was a double major in trig from NC State. When World War II broke out, he was not called to the front line or anything because of his mathematical abilities and skills. He was called to go to Baltimore. And through the whole time, he worked at Baltimore as an electrical engineer and did electrical schematics for our fighter planes. And one of his, he got two here that he specially did the main work on, and he called them his babies. And this here is one of them. It was the A-30 Baltimore. And there's been a movie several years ago on the A-30 about the role that it played during World War II. And another plane that he was especially proud of, there was only 9 of them built, and that was a seaplane, which was the Mars. At the time, it was the largest seaplane in the world. Well, and mathematical skills have always been good, of course, in my wife's family. Her great-grandfather was in Hertford County, and he's in the history book in Hertford County, and he was noted as the greatest mathematician in the world. And when she actually worked for her uncle for a while, which was a CPA, and I think she was very good at it. My brother-in-law was a CPA, and I'm especially proud of my nephew, which has got just a couple more tests to take, and he'll be a CPA, and he works for one of the largest firms here in North Carolina, which is Erskine & Young. He's a corporate auditor, and he travels all over the world, and whenever I need any advice on anything, he's the first one I call. But when it comes to the government, Erskine & Young also has a division which audits government also. And I asked my nephew about that, why can't you do government? He says you got to have an entirely different kind of schooling. If you don't understand and have that type of schooling, you might as well be getting everything out of whack. But I have a friend of his that I'd always call and get some information from. But at the last meeting, well, just to say, this was history. History always repeats itself. From World War I, then we went and had World War II. And when we had the audit a few years ago, not the audit, but the reevaluation, our county manager presented the board with a tax rate of 62 cents, which was lowered from 98 cents. The board met, and several citizens had got phone calls, or the board had got several phone calls from citizens about the finances that had been cut from the schools and asked us to please look after the schools. So we took 1 more cent for the schools, went 63 cents. We could have left the tax rate at 63 cents. But by doing so, over the next period, history repeats itself. There would have probably been a tax increase anywhere from 10, 15, possibly 20 cents. By leaving it at 63 cents, if you just went 7 cents for the next, until the next reevaluation period, you would have been at a tax rate of 70 cents, which would have cost every citizen per $100,000 in property value over $300. By going to 4 cents, trying to break history and remaining at 64 cents through the entire reevaluation period to the next reevaluation, it only cost each citizen per $100,000 only $80 through that whole period. And that's what I'm asking this board to continue to do with the plan, stay at 64 cents. Now is not the time to take so much out of the fund balance to pay on capital debt. After the next reevaluation, after the county is financially strong, then that'll be the time to do so. We can remain at 64 cents through the entire reevaluation period as long as you stay steady and keep growing the fund balance. When you grow the fund balance, then before the next reevaluation, you have something to fall back on and to pull from without taxing the citizens of Gates County. And that's the plan. That not only does that do good for the county, it does good for the citizens, and that every citizen in this county, they can do their budget at home to plan for the meals and the insurance and the welfare of their families because they know what their taxes are going to be from one year to the next. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Wade. All right, next on the agenda, Earl. Hey, Earl.
Hello, Graham. You can tell people that know each other, can't you? I come here today to make a few comments, and the first comment probably, I'm always making comments. I'm accused of liking to hear myself talk, but being I'm half deaf, I can't hear myself talk anyway. But for the last 38 months, we've had a different environment than I have really been used to. It started out that I could not believe that we were going to almost shut down citizens' comments. I was threatened with arrest. My family had been here in this area since 1699. That includes Graham's great-great-great-granddaddy. I ain't figured out yet how far back, but 1699. And it did upset me to think as a citizen of Gates County that I was going to have somebody to come in and give me such a hard time for a year. But I want to be on record today to say that I want to say that under the leadership of Mr. Twine and me talking to him and some more people talking to him, that we have citizens' comments now, and I like to try to limit them. I try to do. I know I talk over 5 minutes and other people do, but the commissioners always get to go home. They're not here starving to death, and the people are being heard. And I'd like to congratulate the leadership for the last 2 years of Mr. Twine. 60 years ago, I started in politics. It was 1952. We had a 17-inch black and white Zenith TV. Also running for governor that year was Kerr Scott, former Commissioner of Agriculture, former governor, and running for the U.S. Senate. And I was out and had big posters about so big, red, white, and blue. And I had fixed them up and draped them over myself and went to the Potato Festival in Elizabeth City, campaigning at 10 years old for Kerr Scott. I watched both the conventions that year on TV at 10 years old, the Democrats and the Republicans, and Dwight Eisenhower and Adlai Stevenson, and I come to the conclusion that the best man for the job was Ike Eisenhower. My daddy heard me say that, and he run me out in the yard and wouldn't let me in the house to eat supper. That's how the county was back then, so strong Democrat. But after 60 years, in the last 38 months, I can promise you this time for sure, Kenny, I'm not going to do a lot of interfering. I had told Kenny and the rest of you that I was going to be out west most of last summer, spring, summer. But my wife was re-diagnosed with cancer, and we didn't go. I'm sorry about that. No, just forget it.
Thanks, Earl. We appreciate it. All right, next on the agenda, Anthony Felton. Welcome, Anthony.
I didn't think I was going to quite make it today due to the jury duty situation in Liberty City, and luckily they moved it back 2 years. But when I got back home and took a look at the internet sites where my friend from Virginia was, showing me and everything, I thank that person for not putting no more mess up there that we don't need to see up there. And like I said before, I say that if you got something to say behind the camera or on the internet, we got the podium and we got the sign-in sheet.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
All right, next, Cal, you come to offer us a chance to build a courthouse in Gates County? I see we're in a bidding war again.
Good morning. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to present y'all our new magazine. Came in yesterday. I have copies in this box up here. Anybody wants them? It's our quarterly magazine we do through Ronald Chouan Publications, which includes stories from Gates, Hertford, Northampton, and Burt T. Canis. There you go, sir. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Cal. I sit on the board, the advisory board for the Gates County Index and Hertford Herald. We had a meeting last week. I want everybody to know that the Herald and the Gates County Index, and they are very into trying to get the information to the public. Cal does a great job for Gates County. They've got a new publisher, is that right? He seems to be a very, very knowledgeable person on newspapers, and I think he had an article in the Herald this week, so if y'all we get a chance to read it, it's very important. And they're doing a lot for Gates and Hertford and Bertie and Northampton County. Thank you, Cal. All right, that ends our public comment. Next on the agenda, let me get this out of the way here. We're going into our department reports. Mike Scott is asked to be first. Mike, you want to come up here and put us where we need to be?
I think y'all are right there, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, and I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, you allow me to jump ahead just a little bit. Mr. Chairman, this morning in your package you have several policies and an ordinance that are required for the Community Development Block Grant Program, and we're asking your consideration of these policies this morning. These policies and applicable ordinances are a requirement for any county or municipality that implements a CDBG program. These policies are non-grant specific and therefore would apply to any subsequent CDBG grants that you may receive over the next 2 to 3 years. I will just address each policy. I won't read them, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. The first one, I'm not sure what order you've got them in. The first one is your fair housing plan.
They were on the Morgan. Were they on the Morgan? Oh, they're down bottom on the new business. Yeah, we moved everybody down. That's it right there.
Yes, that's the one he's going to talk about first.
Okay.
Okay.
The recipient's plan to further fair housing is outlines the specific steps and actions that the county will take over the next 24 months to promote fair housing in Gates County. It identifies some of the challenges to further fair housing in the county, and also outlines specific steps that the county will undertake to promote fair housing in Gates County. This is a document that really is the result of your analysis of impediments to fair housing that I think you have considered or will be considering, and it overlays with that document as well. As I mentioned, this is a document that's good for the next 24 months. It outlines per quarter the specific steps that the county will take over the next 8 quarters to promote fair housing in Gates County, and it also provides an estimate of the cost that would be required to implement these activities. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I guess this is more of a question for County Manager. What radio station, local, has now local radio? What we plan to use?
Morgan, did you hear his question?
Radio.
Why don't you come up, because this is, Morgan handles the CDBG, and she probably can answer this easier than I can. But I believe they used the one in the hospital.
In the hospital.
I believe that's right.
We have in here that we will use local radio station to publicize the fair housing requirement or compliance in the county. What local radio station are we talking about?
Carolyn. Okay. Well, we could use...
And you can feel free to modify anything in here.
I think we probably want to take that out. I would recommend, if we can, without affecting the validity of it.
I see. Okay.
Okay. We can substitute an activity in for that quarter.
Or
What
substitute.
if we just say announcement on a local radio station? Will that, we're not sure which one it is. I mean, will that will, if you say it may be more than one.
Well, you know, if we need to do a radio station, certainly, you know, we need to keep it in there.
I think what they'd like to see, Commissioner, is as wide a variety of media as possible and practical to promote fair housing.
Yeah, and Gates County, we don't have a local radio station. That's my point. There's many that we listen to. I mean, it's quite a variety. So, you know, you'd have to choose probably the one you'd think that, you know, most listeners would tune into. But if it's not necessary, I would recommend substituting. But if it is necessary, Chairman Twine's recommendation to say a local radio station rather than the local radio station, because we don't have a local radio station. Okay.
Which would be. Carolyn, come, you're part of this too. Why don't you come on up here too?
I'm just going to suggest, and I've used this in the past, WRVS. Oh, I'm sorry. And I've used this in the past, WRVS in Elizabeth City. That's local.
Well, it's local for the area, but there's several different stations that people listen to, not just one.
Yeah, and
And I think like Henry said, either not have it in there at all or use a radio station, because we may just determine to do more than one.
And that's true. I mean, you've got some flexibility there as far as what you want to do.
Which would be, you're the expert at this, what would be
I
your
would
recommendation?
suggest, honestly, I would suggest leaving the radio station in there, but
Change it to
you don't
A.
have to identify it at this point.
Just make
Mike.
it a radio station.
Mike, how many seconds are required?
Well, I
Can
think
you-
typically it's a 30-second.
So you got to have a 30-second commercial. That's probably, that's
And
the,
usually, and that's a great point, Commissioner, usually you can work with the station. It's almost a public service announcement. And they're not going to, you probably wouldn't have enough time to read your entire fair housing plan or whatever, but it's something that we can work with the station to develop the announcement, a public service announcement. For more information, contact County Manager's Office in Gates County and those types of things. It's just really, it's a public awareness.
I think
effort.
several of the stations that broadcast in there, like the one in Franklin, the one in Hartsville, and the one in Elizabeth City, all have public service announcements that you can put in
And that's
there.
usually what we try to do is make it as low a cost as possible. Of course, all the costs are eligible for reimbursement by the program, and so it's no direct out-of-pocket funds for the county.
Okay.
We'll make that,
So we'll make it
Make a local radio station, that's okay with everybody?
Can we get,
Let me add, Tommy, you want to say something? Let me get him. Yes, sir.
We have a local radio station in Hospital, WRCS.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's what I was thinking about with the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, could we get some specifics, though, on how many seconds are required to accomplish this?
Sure.
Because if I remember in the past, some that I ran many years ago, they are by the seconds, of course, and you can dramatically impact your service fees by doing that.
Absolutely.
And then we might be able to hit 2 for 1 with 15
Right.
seconds.
Absolutely, and what we would do is work with the station to prepare a spot, make sure everybody's good with it before we send it out there. And we have some specific examples of those types of things.
Okay.
Any other questions on this, gentleman?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I noted 99.3 there in Ahoskie and the 101.7 in Franklin. They have a lot of stuff that are the very same. If you'll listen to those two channels, you can change back and forth, and they're playing the very same songs. They are a correlation between each other.
Okay.
and I think it's been brought out that there's multiple stations, and by making it A, we may even just want to, do a series rather than just giving it to one station.
Right.
That way,
Right.
all will be covered.
Sure, absolutely.
Any other
We don't want anybody to be left out.
Any other issues on this, gentleman? This is something you need to vote, we need to vote on this
Yes.
today.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we adopt the fair housing plan that's been presented with the modification of using a local radio station for the county.
Well, let's do one plan, we're gonna do each plan at a time, I think probably the best thing to do, don't you?
Probably would be, yes.
All right, we've got a motion, do I have a second to accept this, fair housing plan as as modified?
I'll second that.
A motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, let's move on to the
Okay.
next one.
What's the next one you have in your?
I've got equal employment and procurement plan.
Okay. This is a plan I'm sure you all have seen before in some of your other CDBG projects. It's basically no change in this plan. It's just to establish this plan for the period of February 1st, 2012 to January 31st, 2015. It's a 36-month plan. It is basically stating that the county does not discriminate regardless of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, handicap, age, political affiliation, or any other non-merit factor except where religion, sex, national origin, or age are bona fide occupation qualifications for employment.
Any questions, gentlemen? This is pretty up front and forward, I'm sure.
Chairman, I'll make a motion that we adopt the equal employment and procurement plan
All right,
for February 2012 to January 31st, 2015.
all right, we've got a motion on the floor, do I have a second?
I'll second
Got a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
it. Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, the next one we have here is the local economic benefit for low and very low income persons plan, section 3 plan.
Mr. Chairman, this is the plan that sets forth the steps that the county will take to promote to the citizens of Gates County, particularly Section 3, what are classified as Section 3 residents, Section 3 residents being low and very low income residents, of any employment opportunities or contracting opportunities that could be available with any of your CDBG projects over the next 3 years. This plan is also required for any utility contractors as well. If they anticipate new hires that could be filled by local residents, then they will be required to promote this as well. Any other services, goods and services that might be purchased and could be purchased locally will also be promoted as well. So the Section 3 plan is one that is really identified to provide employment opportunities and contracting opportunities for the residents of Gates County.
All right, gentlemen, any questions on this plan? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept this plan as presented.
So moved.
Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, the next one is ordinance. Is that right?
No, that's not it.
Oh, that's different, I'm sorry. Is that it?
The ordinance to establish a grievance procedure in accordance with the American Disabilities Act.
Okay, that is part of it too, right? That's
Yes.
why I was getting ready to read you too.
Yes.
I'm sorry, you're right.
All right, you wanna go over this then?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, this is the county's ordinance, and I'm sure you all have had this ordinance in place for a number of years. Again, it is just, the CDBG program requires that these ordinances and policies be in effect for a 3-year period, and we're recommending that in accordance and to be in line with some of the others that you've already done, is that we restate this ordinance for the period of February 1st, 2012 to January 31st, 2015. And it sets forth the procedures for the county to accept and address any grievances that any employees or residents may have in accordance with the American with Disabilities Act.
All right, gentlemen, do you have any questions on this one? This is one we've already had in effect, it just needs to be read.
Absolutely, sure.
All right, if not, we'll entertain a motion to accept this ordinance, establish a grievance procedure in accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, February 1, 2012 to January 31st, 2015. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Is that it, Mike?
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda, Sandy Pittman, our finance officer. Sandy, oh, there you are.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sandy.
A little more than usual this morning. Before we get started on the fund balance usage document, you received an email either yesterday or Monday concerning an adjustment to the budget due to an error that we had discovered. Just wanted to see if anybody has any questions on that, or if you all want to discuss that before we go any further.
Well, a couple questions. I was noticing when I was doing the calculations, and I understand where we're coming from there with the applied number of 95%, and it's roughly 921, 925. I believe in the budget ordinance it was $925 million evaluation. That's correct, right?
Correct.
That's real estate, correct?
Correct.
So where are the automobiles in this? in the
That's
revenue?
included. That's all property. Correct? That's the total for all
Now-
property.
That includes automobiles and everything? That includes everything. 925 million. So, that was my basic question, is where that numbers actually showed up. So, it would be good that can we separate those two numbers?
Yeah, I mean, we have a breakdown somewhere. When we budget it, we budget the total property tax levy as one line.
Yeah. And I'd like to see those two valuation numbers. Yeah, I'd like to see that, because I was looking at that and everything. And the other thing,
It may have been in your budget workbook. I'm not sure if that was included. We try to include information like that the department heads have sent, but
right.
if not, we can certainly get it from Renee.
Well, and then the other question that I have for that, which I guess this is a bad thing we think of it as, right?
What do you mean?
$300,000.
I don't know if it's bad or good. It was an error, and we have figured out a way to correct it, we hope, as we go forward. I'm not sure where you're going with that, but if you'd like to keep going, we'll talk about it.
Would we agree that this is an error also?
I really can't see
No.
that. Sorry.
It says county fund balance grows by $559,000.
Right.
Would we agree that this is an error also?
No, because the audit was for last year's budget, and we're talking about this year's
I
budget.
understand that, but would we agree that this was an error?
No, because some of those funds are funds that we had pulled out of fund balance and had been reimbursed during that year. Some of them are things that we did not spend that this year we have carried forward to come out of the fund balance. So that number is a culmination of numbers.
I understand that,
Some of it,
Sam.
yes, are projections, because we are not, obviously, God, we can't project where the
That's
numbers will be at the
exactly
end of the
right.
year. But yes, but we have to have a balanced budget,
I
and we have to
understand.
have the certain numbers that we have to have. So in
I
order to
agree.
correct that, this is our plan.
I understand, and it's good, I understand that.
Okay.
What the point I'm making here is that, just like you just said, none of us are God.
Exactly.
Very seldom we will be on zero.
Oh, absolutely.
This is an error, because we underestimated our expenses and, underestimated our revenues, and our expenditures was less. So we had a positive number. This is a good thing, but it is an error, because we're
Well-
not God.
Okay.
No, again, it's not an
Anyway,
error.
I'm not really
It is.
sure
It's
what the
not.
point
I
is,
know it
All right,
but,
all right.
It's not an error.
This, anytime that you do not come to zero, you've created an error,
No,
whether it's positive or negative.
okay.
Anyhow.
no.
Anyway,
That's
as
not.
far
no,
as
hold-
the
hold on.
error-
No, that's inaccurate. That's
No,
not,
it's not.
that's not accurate. Putting money into fund balance is not an error.
I
It's not an
didn't-
error.
Anytime revenues exceed expenditures, you have an error.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
okay.
It's
The
retained
issue
earnings.
is
All
we
right, we're
have
not
to
going to
have,
argue about this anymore. Gentlemen,
thank you. We have to have a balanced budget. Our recommendation at this point, we are balanced in our budget, but we believe that we've overstated the revenues. What we would like to do is encumber those funds to offset that until we get further in the year, and if we see that our revenues are coming in higher than projected, then we can release some of these encumbrances and go forward with these projects. This was sent to you as information to get your input to see how you all feel about it, if you are good with that plan, or if you have other things that you would like to see done to handle this issue.
I don't have any problem with that.
Okay.
You can encumber the fund balance if you want to. I don't want to take $130,000 and we not do this roof.
Well, what the plan is that we're hoping, we've got 2 or 3 lines that we're watching. The DSS state and federal admin line is one number that we're looking at, we think is going to come in over budget, and there are a couple other places we think that we will have additional funds. But until we get further into the year, we won't know that.
I understand that.
That's why we've opted to do it this way.
Well, and the fund balance has grown over the last 6 months. Obviously, the reason for that is because the influx of tax dollars that came in December.
Correct, but it's also
question.
reduced this month. So
That's
that, you know,
correct.
that's a monthly figure. That's why we figure our fund balance at the end of each year, because it's at the same place in that cycle every year.
I understand that.
You know, right now, our projections, we think are pretty close. We do have a couple lines that we think may come in over budget. The tax levies and the tax collections are not going to make this up. We do know that. We don't expect the collections to offset this, so we have identified other places that we think we can offset these
Well, if you go,
mistakes.
if you look at Renee's tax sheet here, I'm not too sure that that is is a true statement. It's got 2010 outstanding levy right now is $192,000.
Okay.
Okay, if you take 5% of the number and you come up with 308, there's a difference between 308 and 191. If we project and stay on the same course of collectability, then this number is overstated.
Renee, would you like to step in here? Because looking at the numbers we've come up with, we're at about 10,000 more than we collected last year.
Well, I
The
think-
levy is basically level with last year, and that's
that's
through the
true.
end of January.
But if this trend line on this tax levy and collectability stays the same,
But you're already budgeting for prior year taxes in another line item
that's true.
on the revenue side, so you really,
And we actually reduced that.
and, well, actually, it was
No.
We increased that
It's
by
increased.
40,000
Let-
this year.
Let me just say this. This is the projection or proposal that you're giving the board to move forward temporarily.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The first item I look at, John and board, merit raise is $12,500. I look on the revenue statement for this year under merit raises, and I see that we've not used any of that.
Correct.
That-
When we get to the end of the year, we will do a budget amendment to disperse that money through the departments that need it. Based on our projections, we expect there to be about 12,500 left at the end of the year, based on what we've done so far.
Exactly. So this is something that allows us to move forward without having to designate or withdraw fund balance at this time.
Correct.
Correct.
If it needs be within 4 months, if we say it's inevitable, then certainly we can readdress that. So I look at this just as an instrument to move forward. It could get better,
Correct.
and if it's like you say, if you don't need the 12,500 that you've already allotted and other itemized items, then, we can do it as designated.
Right.
Correct.
So-
What I would like to do is reevaluate maybe around March, the end of March, into early April, when we're further into the year, and look at things, and if we see that we have revenue lines that are where we, higher than we're projecting them, then start releasing some of these encumbrances and working towards doing this. That's what I'd like to see.
I think if we come back, we make a note to come back to the board during our March or 1st of April meeting,
April meeting would be perfect.
and give us an update, and then we can determine at that particular time what we're gonna do.
Right.
That makes sense. That's the whole intent of what you were given, was to tell you that there's been a problem identified, but there's also been a solution identified, and that when we get further into the year, if the problem is not as bad as we anticipated, then fine. Then we release the money and we begin the projects that we had planned to do.
And that is the point. This is a budget. Budgets are guidelines. They never materialize exactly as they are put on paper. That is why we've had these positive fund balance growths over the last 5 years, because of this very exact reason. You can call it anything you want to, retained earnings, fund balance, or whatever. Anytime that the revenue stream increases above the expense, you have a gain. You can look at any place. You can call it net income, you can call it fund balance, you can call it retained earnings. It is the same result. And the fund balance has grown substantially over the last 4 years, period. There's money here. This is an exercise, and I concur. It's a good job doing that. But I don't want to sit here and handicap myself on a courthouse roof repair or doing this carpet or whatever that needs to be done when I'm sitting on $2.6 million. That's asinine. That's not rocket science.
I think if we
Period.
can move on to the next issue, I think she's about to cover fund balance.
Okay, Sandy.
Okay, we ready to move on?
We'll move on with it.
Other information, I believe we emailed this to you. I don't believe it made it in your packets. I've just done kind of an overall summation of the fund balance that we started with at the beginning of this year, the different amounts that you have appropriated and obligated out of that fund balance going forward for the next few years at this time. Obviously, these are projections, they can change, but these are obligations that you all have agreed to. And I just wanted you to have this just as a guideline to see that even though we came into this year with 2.6 available, we have already appropriated 352,000 of that to cover different things. So at the end of this year, and as Johnny Hora mentioned, you know, it's a projections game, but if things go as planned, you all have already spent $350,000 of that $2.6 million. And with the library project, there's other amounts that have been obligated that will be repaid later on to keep us, you know, close to around the percentage where we are. But I just wanted to provide this to you. It's strictly for your information. And if you look at the bottom, I've included a spreadsheet from the State Treasurer's website that shows where our fund balance is as a percentage, where our group and other counties that are below 25,000 in population, and where the state averages are. Strictly for your information, so that you will have that as you make decisions further on how to go forward with fund balance. Are there any questions about what I've provided?
All right.
So we're going to talk about the debt refinancing with this?
That's
Patience.
next.
That's the
Patience,
next- the
Mr.
next-
Hora.
she-
I have a whole
she's
stack of
on the
papers.
agenda. She's on the agenda.
All right, next is the debt refinance.
Let's see that.
I believe you should have had a spreadsheet at your place when you came in this morning. I have been out of the office quite a bit since the last meeting. I apologize for not getting everything in your packets last week.
I'm looking for it. I don't know where I put it at.
Donnie, did you put it in the folder over there?
Here it is. I got it.
Okay, in doing the research, what I've proposed here are a couple of things. We have a note for the water system, which has 5 years left. I have spoken with, this projection, number one, down below, is from BB&T. If we were to refinance that at the same rate they've given us for the library and kept the same term, I believe it's 4.5 years on this one, you can see the spreadsheet outlines keeping it the way it is with the proposed rate and the $56,000 in savings that we would see. If we do that, we refinance, I think we would do an RFP for that to send it out and get bids from other banks. The numbers I've got here have come directly from BB&T. These are her estimates. Nothing is finalized, obviously. These are strictly estimates, but that's a number that was provided. That's the best one that we've seen.
So, and number two then.
All right, let me go down through the list up top.
Okay.
The DSS building, we have those 2 USDA notes. Those are 30-year notes. Nobody else will do 30-year notes. The issue that we have with refinancing those notes is that we would have to shorten the term so much that the payment would really, really increase, and I don't know that we could absorb that in our operating budget. That's something that maybe after we get straight, we get the library financing done, we get these refinancings done, maybe we reconsider that next budget year. But at this time, I just don't see how we could shorten a 30-year note to a term that's out there and be able to absorb that in our operating budget each year. The schools refinance, the fourth listed at top, that's scheduled to be paid off in July of 2013. My suggestion is we leave that as is. I don't see any reason to really do anything with that. I don't know that we could realize enough savings to make that happen. The second to the bottom is the schools loan, and that's the number 2 below that you just asked about. This loan is currently with BB&T. We can modify this existing loan to bring it down from 3.9% to 2.9%. We would do that as a modification, not a full-blown refinance. There's less expense and less paperwork involved, obviously. That's there. We could do that without going out with an RFP, or if you all would like to do the RFP, we could do that as well. BB&T has historically been the low percentage rate in what we've seen. That is a substantial savings over the next 13 to 15 years, 10 years, I'm sorry. Even this, you know, the dollar amount, the 243 is obviously substantial, but the annual amount of savings is not enough to me, for us to really start looking at those USDA loans, that's part of the reason that, I'm saying we need to finalize all these numbers, put everything in place. Because even though this is a $23,000 a year savings or so at the beginning, that's not enough to absorb the increase in payment that we would see if we tried to shorten those USDA notes down. The registered deeds equipment is the small note that, we've had issues with. We have one more year to pay that off. I've worked with BB&T. We're looking to get that paid off during the next budget year. There's obviously a prepayment, whatever. I'm working to get that information with them. I have the modification paperwork. This was kind of all done, especially the original part, before I got here, so I don't have all the documentation I need. But that is a minimal. That's a $6,000 a year note, so that's not, it'll be some savings, but nothing huge. These are my suggestions. Any input I'd love to have. We can go forward with whatever you decide you want me to go forward with.
No, I like your number one and your number two. I think that, the only thing on number one here, I do see the principal balance. You got 76 on there.
Correct.
And
That's
82.
The 82 includes the fees that are involved. There's going to be
To
obviously upfront
refinance.
fees for refinance, and she's included there. It doesn't look like
So-
she's included it at the bottom, or she may have included it in the interest. These are, like I said, these are simply projections. These are not any formal offers.
So we got about $6,000 worth of fees to make the refinance.
Correct.
But
Which
we're
will
saving
obviously
56.
more than pay for itself in the long run.
Same payment, to me, that's a no-brainer.
Correct. And that
And
money,
number
keep in mind that the number one is not general fund money. That's the water system. So that
understand.
money will strictly stay with the water system. We won't
Understand.
see any change in our general fund with that,
And number two is a no-brainer also.
obviously. Absolutely.
Now, in reference to the DSS building, and the way I'm looking at this is with just what I said, if we make the $500,000, we save and that's just making the payment now, not doing anything, making the payment, we save $697,000. So now we got a 243 and a 56. This is $1 million that we're talking about. And what's it gonna cost us? $6,000.
No, there'll be more than that. There are more fees included in the schools and what have you, but the USDA,
So
are
I'm
you
not-
talking about making a $500,000 to pay down the USDA notes?
Yeah, just pay the principal and don't do nothing.
Okay, I'm not getting involved in that conversation. I've provided you the fund balance information.
That's
My
right.
recommendation is that we don't continue to go into fund balance. If something were to happen and we needed fund balance to cover us, I know you've made the comment that FEMA is there and we have other sources.
That's right.
I don't know if you realize or not, but we still do not have all of our FEMA money from August. If we'd had a tornado come through like Bertie County in August, and we depended on FEMA to feed our people and take care of the people of this county, they would be very hungry and very thirsty. But you all have to make those decisions. Those are policy decisions. My recommendation is that we do not go any further into fund balance than the $350,000 that you've already obligated this year. And I'm going to bow out of that conversation. That is between the five of you.
Well, that leaves us with 2.3. We began 2 years ago with 1.8, so we're right back at the same place. There are a lot of people in this world today that are trying to figure out a way to follow the Hearst and take the money with them. You use your money smartly and wisely to save money. Here's $1 million. Well, two of these on here is a no-brainer. Absolutely, because you're keeping your payment basically the same. So that's $300,000. Now, the next question is whether you become bold and save the taxpayers another $700,000, or do you continue to sit on something and just look at it and say, well, it looks nice? Or do you go to the bank and you put it in the bank and they say, well, I'm going to give you 1%. Now, that's really smart. Now, this is a long-term proposition. It starts out about $30,000 and grows to about $46,000 over the term of this loan that are true savings. Now, yeah, you're going to lose the 1%, and we haven't even been doing the 1%. And we're sitting here talking about a tax rate at 64 cents. The trend line has been obvious. Now, we got a bump in the road possibly here. We don't know that. if you look at the December, it's kind of hard to tell, as I said, because of the taxes that's coming in December. I'll know more in another 3 months. But these are absolutely no-brainers, period. This is $1 million of taxpayer money that can be saved.
You want to start an act on this, or you want to keep talking about it? I'm
Well,
ready to
I-
act on it. Are you?
well-
I'm ready to act on
On
this.
which part?
These two right here.
Well, I'll make a motion, we accept what Sandy's presented on these two loans, no question. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
I will contact the banks and put the
Do
one,
we have to RFP on the first?
yes, I'll
one?
need to create an RFP for the one that's the
Let's
refinance.
do
And the
each one of them
modification, I
individual
don't
then.
believe we do.
I think you may want to make your motion to include doing whatever paperwork is necessary, because the first one's going to require the LGC and the second one is not, unless you do an RFP on the second one and someone other than BB&T gets it, then it's no longer a modification and it becomes LGC confirmable.
So your recommendation is to do,
My recommendation is to modify the second loan and keep it with BB&T and to put an RFP out to refinance the water note.
all right, let's do one at a time, Johnny. Let's do number 2, which is the second one here.
All right, well, let me ask you this now, and the only problem I have with this is, and the reason for this is because of the term of the loan. It was created in December of 2001. You've already paid most of the interest. That's the problem. When you look at these things, the 30-year loans and the most current ones are the ones that you want to attack, because that's when the principal is higher, the interest rate that you're paying is higher, and the principal is less every time. These are the ones you want to attack, the most current ones you have. So when you look at the 2001, we paid most of the interest. We've already done it. We've already done it. That's why it's only $56,000 here, or at least why this number is $96,000. You've already paid the bulk of the interest.
So do you not want to do it?
No, I want to.
You all tell me what to do. I'm not
I'm trying
sure
to
where
get
you're
to the
going
point where
with
we
this
can do
again.
something. That's what
I
I'm
just
trying to
need
get to.
direction.
I'll
Y'all
make a
tell me what
motion,
to
we
do.
do number one, then,
all right,
if
let's
we're
go,
gonna do one.
let's go to number 1 then. All right, you want to make a motion that we do number 1 on RFP. That's what we need to do. You want
Whatever
Make it
the
a
cost.
motion that we do RFP for the number 1 loan, which is the water system loan.
I make a motion, we do the RFP so that we can save $56,000 of taxpayer money.
Okay, we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to put RFP out for the loan on the water system. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, let's,
I make a motion that we
All right,
do
now-
what is necessary on number 2, on the school loan, so that we can save another $243,000 of taxpayer
let's
money.
make this motion to, to maintain this same loan with BB&T, not having to go out for RFP. You want to make this as a modification of this loan, is that right?
That is correct.
All right, make that, say that in your motion, then. I want to make sure we're on recording that you liked it, that this is what you said.
I like saving money, Graham.
I know, I understand that.
I make a motion that we modify the number 2 school loan, which has principal balance, looks like about $4 million, to save the taxpayers $243,000.
All right, we've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, we've got those 2 taken care of.
So now, I would like to make a motion that we go against this DSS loan that we have and spend, you choose the number. I'd like to be at least $150,000, but I want $500,000. $500,000 saves the taxpayers of Gates County $700,000.
You want to wait until we've got all board for this before we discuss this, or you want to vote on it now?
Well, I want input from everybody.
Well, you've got a motion now.
So when is that going to be?
Well, the next board meeting should have all 5 of us here. We're talking about a serious issue here. If you want to vote on it now, you make the motion, we'll continue with it.
I don't consider it a serious issue.
All right?
It, saving money, and when you look at the projections that we have of our fund balance and what has been occurring, we're still at 64 cents on our tax rate. Yeah, extraordinary things do happen. But, you know, I might walk out of here and an airplane might fall in Gates County, right down on this thing and kill me. If you're sitting back and do not take the risk, and that's what things are about, is taking risk and being smart about taking the risk and the probability of being successful. This is a 100% success.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor. You want to repeat your motion?
I would like to take $150,000 to $500,000 out of our fund
Make a
balance
number.
and pay.
Let's make a number.
No, I want some discussion. I want to know what number you feel comfortable with.
I am not comfortable taking anything out of fund balance. I've said that before, said it all along. So that's where I'm at. Now, the other gentlemen can make their statements.
Well, my concern is that, you know, periodically through the year, we have to shift monies from fund balance for operating expenses because our tax revenue does not come in consistently or equally during the year. So that fund balance is a cushion for us. It's not unusual. I've seen it done, I think, up to 2 times a year sometimes. We'll pull $1 million out, $1.5 million. And as it's been explained, if we do have an emergency during that time while we are waiting for the tax department to bring in tax revenue, then we could have a problem. You know, 23% fund balance in relation to your operating budget is not a wealthy figure. You know, when you get up to 70, 50, 70, 75%, well, then yes, you're pretty extravagant. But in order to operate the county, in order to give our citizens what we need when we need it, we need the flexibility to be able to draw from the fund balance, to keep operating without having to go and borrow money from a bank to do that.
We can't do that. That's
Well,
not an option.
we
you
can't
can't do
actually
that.
do that.
You need that. You know, the state law says I have to have 8%. That's a minimum. And anything above that gives you some flexibility. So at the current time, I would not be in favor of using $500,000 out of fund balance to pay off this DSS loan. That would be, I think it would hinder us. It would cause us some undue financial turmoil, if you will. So I would say we should move along as we are. I don't know what 50,000 could do or whatever, but that would be my recommendation.
Kenny, you got input on this?
I don't have a problem with spending 100,000 out of this budget, out of the fund balance.
You go for that, Kenny. We just spent 150 2 months ago.
And I'll tell you why I say that. 100,000 is not going to reduce it that much out of our fund balance when you have 2.3 million. 100,000 is not that bad. And then let's look at it again next year. Let's put another 100 maybe next year and the following year if we have the funds available. Let this be a starting point with just 100,000. And I know there's going to be a savings. I don't know exact figures. Johnny might have it there. I don't know. But you know, 100,000 out of 2.3 million, at least 2.2. I mean, anybody in here would love to have that kind of money. I mean, you know, it's. I tell people sometimes you look at it when you're looking at millions, and I don't know that many people in here that are millionaires. But if I had that, I wouldn't mind spending 100, because I still got that 2.2, and hopefully we don't have no hurricanes. Hopefully we don't have no tornadoes and this, that, and the other. But that's something we don't know about. Okay. But I feel like the 100,000 is a number that we can work with.
All right, let me expand again. I'm going to call them out to you. Kenny said $100,000 saves $185,000.
Over how long?
Over the period of loan? Well, it's not going to be
30
30
years.
years? Okay.
Well, it don't make any difference.
Okay.
You're not earning but $1,000. So now, $150,000 saves $267,000. $200,000 saves $344,000. So if Kenny's comfortable with 100, I'm comfortable with that too to start off with. But come June, when I see the general fund balance and know where I'm at again, I want another 100. This is smart business thing. If you go look in Gates County at all of the successful people that are in Gates County businessmen, and any of them will tell you the same thing. Any of them. This is smart business.
All right, you gonna make that as a motion then?
Let me
Okay.
ask one more.
Henry?
So we're talking about realizing in hard dollars about $6,000 a year. If I'm gonna save 185, if I pay $100,000, I'm gonna save, over this 30-year loan now, I'm gonna save $6,000 a year. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, it starts
Pretty much.
Less than
It goes
less
up,
than
it
that.
goes
So
up.
we're gonna pay 100,000 and we're gonna save 6 in hard dollars. That's what it means for the county.
Not
I just
really.
wanna make sure
Yeah.
that, well, if you spread it out over the life of the loan,
If you do spread it out, that's
right,
correct.
and that's
That's
based
how it will be
on,
realized is per year.
that's based on 30 years is what we've got
But
there.
they are real dollars, Henry.
Well,
That's the key.
I understand that, but we need to recognize that we're gonna realize $6,000. Now, we've taken $100,000 out of fund balance, and we're gonna realize $6,000 a year is what we're gonna do. We're
That
gonna
is
realize.
correct.
So, I
If
want
you
that,
care, but you have reduced the term of your loan from 30 years. It's improved by 5 years. That's the key. That is the key. You're not paying on it for 30 years anymore. You're paying it on, the one I showed you the other day, took a 30-year loan and moved it to 26 years.
And the one thing that I do need to mention is, I do not know if we can prepay the USDA notes. I will check on that. I'm assuming that we can
Well, and I
prepay those
don't know
notes,
that
but
either.
I'll have to check on that before we can really, anything that you all vote on, obviously, will have to be, pending whether approval. We have to make sure we can do that. I don't know how those notes were set up because it was done before I got here.
Well, let's talk about it again. It doesn't necessarily have to be those, because we're sitting here with the school loan at the same type deal. That although it's 4.25 versus 3.98, we won't save quite as much, but we will save a substantial amount of money. So you can do the same thing. You can refinance and pay the $100,000 and do that.
Well, let's get back to the order now. We've got a motion on the floor, but we're not sure what the motion is yet. What is the motion?
Are you comfortable with the 100, Kenny?
100.
Don't want 150?
100.
All right.
Let's start out with 100.
All right, I'll make a motion that we take $100,000 and apply against our DSS loan today and make the check tomorrow for $100,000, pay it against the DSS loan if possible.
Give me some time to check on it. Tomorrow's probably not going to happen, but what I'll do
Well-
is check what we can do, and I'll get back with you all by
I
email
figured this is
before we
cost-
cut a check.
This is costing us about $56 a day, so, sooner the better.
Well, I'll stay here
All
till
right.
midnight
We
tonight,
have-
see if I
we
can
have a
find
motion
somebody
on
at
I wouldn't want
USDA.
you to do that.
We
son.
have a motion on the floor that we take $100,000 out of fund balance to pay off on the DSS loan if we can. Is that right?
That's what I understand.
That's the
All
way
right.
I understand it.
All right.
Renee has a question.
Renee?
And this is totally out of my category, but Colleen is not here. And I believe the last meeting, wasn't there something?
We've talked about that, we're good. That part is clear. Yeah, we're good there.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, raise your right hand. Oh, we've got a tie vote.
Doesn't carry.
Motion doesn't carry. All right, let's move on. All right, let's see.
I think we're doing budget amendments now.
Next thing on the agenda are budget amendments.
Hopefully a little less controversial. I have some budget amendments that,
Were they out there in the original package?
they were in your packet, yes. I did get
Everyone
those
read one
done
vote.
before the packets went out. And the majority of these are carryover budgets from Reba, so
All right, go ahead.
All right, everybody ready? First budget amendment I have is number 37. In October, we did a budget amendment to pull some money out of fund balance to cover the administration contracts for the Rural Center and EDA grants. These grants and their administration were rolled into the large capital project ordinance that we've done for the sewer project. Therefore, this amendment is to reverse amendment number 22 that we posted back in October. So this will reverse the fund balance appropriated from that amendment.
That was number 37?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Number 38, which contract? This is for the courthouse computers, the software for the Register of Deeds. In preparing the original budget, the number that was picked up that came from the department head, and we didn't catch it, was for the general fund amount of this contract. Part of the contract comes from the general fund and part comes from the automation and preservation fund. We've got to pay the contract, but in order to do that, we'll have to pull the money from the fund balance from the automation and preservation fund to cover that in the amount of $2,476. I've talked with Sharon. She and I both have notes, and we won't make that mistake again next year. We should be good. Number 39, this is to correct the carryover budget for the LifeSmarts grant for the Extension Department. Number 40 is the same thing for the carryover budget for the 4-H program in United Way through Extension. And these are not new revenues. These are revenues that were received last year and did not get spent. Number 41 is the same, to correct the carryover amount, which was overstated in this case. So we're actually reducing this budget slightly. Number 42, the SOS grant, which is the same thing. We're actually slightly decreasing this by $18, but she's also reallocating some other figures within that budget as well. And that's all that I have. Are there any questions on those?
All right, gentlemen, we've got budget amendment 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, and 42. Are there any questions on these budget numbers? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve budget amendments as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
All right.
Thank
I believe
you,
that's all I
Sandy.
had. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you, Sandy.
All right, our next agenda, we'll have Renee McGinnis, our tax administrator. Renee, you gonna be a few minutes? We'll take a break if it's gonna take you a while. Okay, let's take a quick break. All right, Renee, you're up.
Good morning. I had to check to make sure it was still morning. Before I go into any of my reports and whatnot, the first thing I'm going to do is introduce the gentleman that we have with us this morning so he could go ahead and hit the road and get back to his office. This is in reference to foreclosure work, and I think you may have a packet, the Zacchaeus Legal Services.
I'll do that right now.
Okay, and this is Mark Bardille, and he is here to talk to you about a proposed contract, possibly with doing some work for Gates County and what his firm does. What they actually do is work strictly with county foreclosures. That is all they do. And they do come with a very good reputation from counties that they're currently working with. So I'm going to turn the platform over to Mark.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Renee, and good morning. Zacchaeus Legal Services is a tax foreclosure law firm, and that's all we do. We started in 1985 as part of my general practice, where I had a transactional law firm, mostly represented business and folks moving in and out of their homes and that sort of thing for real estate transactions. And as time developed, we became proficient at doing tax foreclosures. We started in Onslow County in 1985 and then went to Jones County in 1995. And then from there, word spread of a firm that would do this kind of work for local government, and local government was very receptive because with a firm that comes from an outside area, one of the issues that confronts local council, that is of having conflicts of interest, was done away with just that one piece of the puzzle. We also were able to develop our practice because tax foreclosures is all that we do. I was local counsel at one time, and I had a healthy court calendar to have to deal with all sorts of cases, wills, estates, and transactions. And it was easy to take a tax foreclosure file and put it off to the side and then come back to it much, much later than any other type of business, because the other types of business that were coming through the door seemed to be much more urgent. So with the dedication of simply practicing tax foreclosure law, we're able to dedicate all of our time and resources to carrying that task out. We currently represent 15 local governments and 4 towns. Our easternmost county is Tyrrell County, and it's also our smallest and the county with the lowest real property collection rate. We're doing a lot to improve their collection rate. In the first 6 months we represented them last year, we collected $300,000, and their out-of-pocket expense was 0 in the first 6 months. Our most westerly county now, we just received the contract last week, is Yancey County, which is on the Tennessee border. Our most northerly is Warren County, which is like you, on the Virginia border, and our most southerly is Scotland County, which is on the South Carolina border. So we spend a lot of time developing systems and programs to deal with volume, practice of tax foreclosure, and I spend a lot of time on the road going from courthouse to courthouse, making sure that the local government's tax liens are enforced. In the packet, if you'll draw your attention to a chart that is on the right side of your packet. Looks like this. It illustrates 3 counties, Craven, Beaufort, and Wilson County. The top line, I guess it's a dark blue or black line, is Craven County, and they started at a 98.39% real property collection rate, which is astronomically high. And we were able to collect almost that last percent up to 99.42%, which was an increase of 1.03%. In Wilson County, we were able to go from 93.97% to 98.35%, and that's an increase of 4.38%. And then in Beaufort County, we went from 94.29% to 96.62%, and that's an increase of 2.33%. And you can see the years that took place. In Craven County, it was a 5-year period. In Wilson, it was a 2-year period. And in Beaufort, it was a 4-year period. Now, the important thing to realize, well, it's actually 2 important points regarding this chart. One is these figures are from the State Treasurer's Office, which are provided by the county. So it is a document that is transmitted to the state for reporting purposes, and that's where we got these figures. We didn't get them from any other source. The second important point is that these figures actually represent the current levy. It doesn't show an increase in collection of the delinquent tax, which is really what we're hired to do. The third point is that each of these tax administrators did nothing more than use our program as a device during this period to increase their collection rate. I asked each one of them, was there any other resource, any other program, any other device that you used during this period that you hadn't been using before to augment these rates, except for a comprehensive tax foreclosure program delivered by our office? And they each said no. So what that means for you is when a tax foreclosure firm comes in that can dedicate its resources to making your program a comprehensive program, taking care of all of those needs necessary, from simply foreclosing on the property, and that means filing the suit to begin with, going the whole 9 yards to those few cases that actually have to be sold. You not only collect thousands and thousands and thousands of delinquent revenue, which is already on the books, which you could use to solve your budget needs. It also increases the current levy collection by changing attitudes. We like to say that when we come on the scene, we change attitudes, not titles, and that would be not real property titles. We have a very low incidence of actually dispossessing any taxpayer from their property, and if you would look on the right-hand side too, the very last sheet is entitled Great Results, Few Dispositions, or Few Dispossessions. And if you'll take a look at that, it'll give you an idea of the kind of success that can be had for Gates County without dispossessing people of their property. Look in number 4. In Wilson County, in our first year representing them, we collected $750,000 without selling a single parcel. 4B, in green, it says Chatham County. During the first 2 years, we were assigned 900 parcels and only 150 remained to be processed, all without selling a single parcel. And in Lee County, in our first 2 years, our program collected more than $1 million without selling a single parcel. And how do we do this? We did it by taking the parcels on a volume capacity, processing them as quickly as we could, having staff dedicated to be able to provide payoffs and to be able to move the cases forward so they didn't linger. And with all of this work, very few properties were dispossessed from anyone. I've been doing this since 1985, and I can count on one hand the personal residences that I know have been foreclosed on, and actually to the extent where the property was sold and the people had to move. Most of these properties, if they do have a residence on them, folks change their attitude and realize that they have to get their taxes paid first. It's a priority. And that's because the tax lien is a super priority. It has a higher priority over every other lien except for certain state income tax liens. So with that change of attitudes, people come and pay their taxes first before they spend money on other things. That would conclude my brief presentation. Of course, I could go on forever. I've made a career of this, and we have lots of examples to go over, but I thought I would just give you that presentation and see if there were any questions you may have.
We appreciate you coming. Gentlemen, you have any questions? I'm very interested in it myself.
So these, this graph that you got is measuring current year percents, though, correct?
That's right. For those years represented.
Well, and that's a good point, and obviously in the current year, but if you go back and look at our tax stream over the last 10 years, we are really uncollectible. Now, although we eventually get the money, we are averaging about a 0.3 to 0.4% of uncollectability over the last 10 years. Up until, matter of fact, if we go back from 2000 to 2006, that's about a 0.5% that we didn't collect. Now, what you're saying is true to have an impact on the current year, but I'm not sure what that would do over the long-term aspect of actually getting everything truly 100% collected, which you probably will never reach.
But we never have, and I don't know a county that has collected 100%.
And where we really have our problem, as I go back and look in the records, we have $123,000, and I didn't do an account on the number of bills there are. We have $123,000 of bills less than $100. And my point is the collectability of those less than 100 of actually being able to procure those. And our total Out of that, based on what she's got here today, says that we are 551,000, of which 192 of that is coming from the last year of 2010. So now we're down to $300,000. And then out of that 300,000, as I said, I've got 123,000, I believe it was, that are less than $100, which presents a very unique problem of trying to collect those bills. And I didn't count how many. I have done that on the grouping between less than 10, 10 to 20, and those kind of things, and I'm charting those now. But that, to me, presents a different kind of problem than what you're presenting here.
Well, to be sure, we've represented a lot of counties
Right.
with that same problem.
Right.
And the way the statute is set up for collecting these amounts, if a taxpayer wants to redeem their property, they have to pay that tax plus whatever cost and attorney's
Right.
fees are associated with it. One of our arguments, if someone mentions, well, it sure is a small amount of tax, it seems like an extreme measure. Well, if it was that small amount of tax, then it could have been paid.
Right.
And that
That's
tax,
true.
that property has a value that is supposed to carry its fair share of paying for local government. Also, if you look at the trend of simply coming into the county and how that affects collecting property tax in general, some of those items that get collected without us having to bring the action. It's just the fact that you have the means on hand and have decided to use it on behalf of your tax-paying citizens to collect those accounts that can't be paid. That's what changes the attitudes, and a lot of those accounts get paid simply by having someone on the scene to be able to do that kind of work.
So how would you attack delinquent personal property bills?
For personal property taxes, those that are listed in the same name as the real estate and that are not motor vehicles, that becomes a lien on the real estate also, and we're able to collect that as part of our foreclosure. We are not able to collect personal property taxes through the foreclosure of the real estate unless that set of criteria is met. So for a motor vehicle, for a car that's registered, it does not become a lien on the real estate, and we will not be able to collect it. But to be sure, we have collected a lot of value assessed and associated with farm equipment, with business equipment, and other items simply by foreclosing on the real estate that's titled in the same name.
So in other words, putting a lien against the real property.
That's right. Well, there is a lien. There is a lien against the real property by law for the value of the personal property titled in the same name as the real estate.
All right, let me understand that then. So if I have a piece of real estate and I paid all my taxes on my real estate, yet I've got an automobile out there that I owe $100, then you're telling me there is automatically a lien against that real estate for that $100?
If
Not
that
an
motor
automobile.
vehicle is unregistered, if it's registered, there is not.
Oh, okay.
But in the same fact situation, if you have restaurant equipment or farm equipment
Right.
in your name, and you've paid your real estate bill on a piece of property titled in exactly the same way, that personal property tax becomes a lien on the real estate, and we can
Right.
nonetheless foreclose on the real estate to collect
I
that personal
understand.
property
The
tax.
only thing you can't do is the registered vehicles, is that right?
That's right, and mobile homes, manufactured homes that aren't attached and made part of the real estate.
Okay. Makes sense to me. All right, gentlemen, you got any more questions?
Under item 3, says that you have 180 days for filing all related work and filing a foreclosure.
Are you on the contract?
Yeah.
Okay. I was really sure you were.
Shall take place within 180 days from the date the tax collector transmits the initial information outlined in paragraph 2 above, and so forth and so on.
Yes, sir.
Under item 5, we say that the attorney shall bring the foreclosure to conclusion within 2 years after filing said foreclosure action with the clerk of court's office. That seems a bit liberal. Could you kind of give us some understanding as why you would use 2 years to bring it, if you complete the filing within 180 days, but yet, from the county's perspective, you're going to give yourself up to 2 years, which we're going to still accumulate penalties and the administrative costs and so forth.
I think that perhaps maybe maybe I could have done a better job at making an example or setting it out a little clearer. The items that address the services provided that are subject to the 180-day period are that of actually getting the title work done and the complaint itself filed. That's just the beginning of the procedure. Then, because of the due process clauses of the North Carolina and the U.S. constitutions, we have to make sure that anybody with an interest in that real estate has been served and put on notice of our lawsuit that it ultimately intends to divest them of the property if the taxes aren't paid. So that first part is just for the title search and getting it filed. At that point, then we have to go about serving the parties, getting into court, getting the judge to agree that we should be able to foreclose and getting the property sold. And so that's the reason why another 1.5 years is allocated. If at any time during that time period the taxpayer comes forward, or a lien holder, because a lot of times banks have liens and they want to protect their lien, since the property tax lien is a higher priority lien than the bank lien, oftentimes a lender will come in and pay this off. If at any time someone comes in and pays off in full, we dismiss the suit and that suit's over. And then the county's received its money and the lawsuit is concluded. As far as a general time limit of 2 years from beginning to end, you will find that that is not liberal, particularly as to problem cases, and I would suspect that Gates County is going to have just as many problem titles as many of the other counties that we represent. The bulk of them, when we get an assignment from the county, we'll be able to file in a very short period of time. The ones that we can't file, we put off to the side until we become more and more familiar with the area, and then we can take stabs at those until we can finally figure out the titles and get the suit filed and then hopefully concluded. Another thing that enters into this process, as far as the 2-year time limit is concerned, is that a lot of these properties are going to be heir properties, and there may be people scattered all over the United States, in fact all over the world. And if the due process clause requires us to make them part of the suit, and we have, as part of our due diligence, an obligation to try to make reasonable efforts to find them, now with such research tools as Accurate, and which is a LexisNexis-based product that helps us do our skip trace work, and other tools on the internet like Obits Archive, which helps us trace obituaries and therefore get family members' names, we are more and more able to track people, and that adds longer and longer time period, because the more names you know, the more effort you have to go through to try to serve them, and that takes more time.
All right, thank you.
All right, anything else, gentlemen?
I was gonna say, if this is something y'all wanna pursue, I've got a couple questions about the contract. If y'all are gonna do that, then I won't bring them up.
I think we'll talk, do you need to ask him about, if not, we'll talk to Renee.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll just go ahead and ask it. My question is number 10 in the contract. I have some concerns about how vague that first sentence is written.
Well, I agree. It could have more examples, and it could have more time limits. I think the best thing for Gates County to rely on in that instance is that since 1985, I've never received more than the fee set out in the contract in any case that we've ever done. And that will give you an idea that over a more than 25-year period, I do not like coming to commissioners and to tax offices and asking if we can receive more than a fee than that which is set out in the contract. Commissioners like a standard fixed fee. The taxpayers like to know what the fee is, and the tax office and county administration likes to know what the fee is. I think paragraph 10 is more applicable to those kind of cases, for instance, where it's an unusual error case. And instead of just chasing 5 or 10 people down, we're trying to chase 25 to 100 people down. In that situation, I need to be able to have a meeting with the tax office and the commissioners and ask them if the money spent on expenses and a potential higher attorney fee really justifies the foreclosure action on that particular parcel.
And I agree with that. My concern is more the word difficult, where it says difficult cases. I would think multiple ones of these would be difficult.
Well, we can strike difficult if that causes a concern, but that
I
same
think-
word is in all these other contracts that we've
Yeah.
worked on over the years, and difficult for us has to be difficult.
Yeah, but difficult is a relative term. I would, personally, I would be more comfortable if it said somewhere in 10 that before we got into the difficult exceeding base level, that you're obligated to come back to the commissioners to get permission.
And that's an easy clause to insert. And I would like that too. I mean, I think
That would make sense.
that interchange and that activity between the offices lets everybody know what they're getting into by way of expense, time, and return. Because
Agreed.
all of this has to do with what return you're going to be able to get from having this kind of program in place.
I agree. With the exception of 10, I personally, Mr. Chairman, is fine with the rest of the contract.
I think the contract is something we'll negotiate after we decide if we're going this direction or not. If no other questions, we appreciate your time, and
Thank you so much.
we'll discuss it with our tax administrator.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next on the agenda, Renee, you still got some more stuff here.
I'm still here, I'm sorry, but I am still here. Did y'all want to entertain anything in reference to the bid that we have for the property on Tuggy Road? The deed for that has not been recorded as of yet because of time frames with holding the money and whatnot before it could be dispersed and so forth. So the deed, we should have it, if not this week, next week. I didn't know if y'all wanted to put it off until March, or if you'd like to go ahead, if you want to accept that bid and accept it with, under the provisions of when the deed is actually recorded.
They're still interested, and no other bids have come in.
Not at this point. We have had another interest in it, but I'm doubtful that anything is going to come through with that at this point. And it may be that, once this bid is accepted and we publish this, we may see something else come in at this point.
How long do you think before the deed will be ready?
It should be, like I say, if not recorded this week, next week. And I didn't know if y'all just wanted to go ahead.
But even then, if they accepted it today with that condition, there'd still be a 10-day
There still
hold
would
period.
be, I would start that, and I'll refer to Pitt with this. If a motion is made today that they accept that bid upon the date that the deed is recorded, can we start that 10-day upset period as of the date the deed is recorded?
Are you talking about a deed to the county?
We may not be able to do it today.
Yeah, I would not record the deed to the county until all upset periods have expired.
Well, now, all upset periods have expired. We're just waiting for that deed to get to record. And they have had a bid offered to them as the Board of Commissioners for that property.
I would not agree to convey the property till the deed's recorded.
Okay,
You
so
don't
do
have
you
time.
want to?
I think the thing to do
Put
is
off
make
to
sure we're all right,
March.
but wait till the deed's recorded, and then
Okay.
we'll move on.
I'll,
We're a
let-
little uncharted here. We use
Yeah.
the attorney's recommendation.
I'll let her know that it will be the 1st of March, and y'all will make that decision. Also, something I wanted to mention today, something that you can think about, not necessarily to make a decision on today, but our foreclosure policy that we had put in place a while back calls for us to actually not act on foreclosure with a piece of property until it is 2 years delinquent. The other day when we had met with Mark, and in talking about this, we were wondering if y'all would be interested in changing that from 2 years delinquent to 1 year delinquent, which, as of right now, the way our policy is set up, the only properties that we would move forward in foreclosing on would be those that owe 2010 and 2011 taxes at this point, because they're 2 years delinquent at this point. Whereas if we changed it to 1 year, we could move on those that are only delinquent for 2011. Of course, the advertising of tax liens has to occur first, but then we could move on with getting that letter out, giving them X amount of time to come in and pay before it goes on to the foreclosure attorney. It could help in your current year rate, but that's just something for y'all to think about. And if you have any questions or concerns with it, if you want to give me a call or drop me an email, if it's something you think you might be interested in acting on later.
Renee, the general statutes for the tax laws seems to be pretty specific to me. Are you aware if they address that? You know, because tax laws simply say the taxes are due, tax collectors shall collect the taxes, and if they don't collect them, the foreclosure should proceed.
Once January the 6th rolls around and they're delinquent, we can take what action we need to collect those taxes. However, as far as going on into foreclosure, we do have to advertise that tax lien first, which the first date that we can do that is March 1 with real estate.
So the 1-2 year is strictly something implemented by the commissioners.
Mm-hmm. It was 3 years at one time.
Was that one in the last couple of years?
It's been in the last couple of years.
You
that
backed
we
it down from 3 to 2 within the past 2-3 years or
Yeah.
so. And Mark, in our meeting with Mark, he very strongly encouraged you guys to consider going to 1 year.
It would make a difference, I think, with your current collection rate. And one of our reasons for being so interested with Mark's firm is it is a flat fee that is charged for these foreclosures. Of course, that flat fee does not include advertising cost and, you know, cost for service and that sort of thing. But it is a flat fee, so it allows us and the taxpayer a little better information as to what they're getting into if this foreclosure moves forward. Whereas right now, we are being charged by the hour, and y'all have seen where some of those fees have gone, and we have been in the situation where we have actually been in conversation with a taxpayer with one figure just to turn around in the next day or two to find out something else has been added to it. And it puts us in a bad position in working with the taxpayer, and it puts the taxpayer in a bad situation. I mean, it's, you know, I realize pushing things to foreclosure is a burdensome thing within itself, but then to just have fees out there that just seem to grow and grow and grow, and the taxpayer doesn't need know, you know, to what extent they're going to grow, and we really can't tell them. It helps to have that set fee so that they know what they're working with.
Do you think Mark would be willing to provide us an average foreclosure cost of the properties he's done for some of the counties?
Well, his flat fee is $700 per parcel. And it literally depends on if it's a piece of property that the people are living here in the county that we can serve through the sheriff's department where, you know, or if we have to advertise. It really depends on the situation as to where those extra fees are going to come in.
I understand, but I'm saying out of 40 properties that he foreclosed on in the last 2 years, what were the range of those?
The average.
Yeah. If he would.
He gave us that in the meeting. I asked that specific question. He can give you that number. He's got it.
I think that would certainly help us in moving forward.
I think another thing that Renee kind of talked about but didn't specifically say, I think what you'll see almost a shift in mentality. Right now, there's incentive for Travis Ellis to prolong foreclosure processes because he's paid by the hour, whereas the exact opposite is in play with Mark in that there's advantage for him to take care of them quickly and efficiently because he's making a flat rate. So I think you're looking at a completely different mindset from one to the other.
And with going with Mark also, all funds would come through our office. His office does not accept any payments whatsoever. So that sending out that initial foreclosure letter would come back into our office where we would send that. We would be able to quote the taxpayer what that extra cost is going to be if it reaches the point of going to the foreclosure attorney. We would give them X number of days to contact our office. Once they contact our office, it would either need to be paid in full or we would go to the payment schedule that y'all had set up within that foreclosure process. But no funds would go through Mark's office.
You want to get a little more information before we make a decision on this, or is something the commissioner would like to move on now?
I'd like to see
Yeah.
that information.
Okay.
Let's
And
get a
I'll-
little more information, send it to us.
I will try and get that. I don't know if I'll be able to.
Other than what you just said.
Yeah, than average.
Right.
Is there anything else?
You say $700 is basically work is for each parcel unless there's another fee.
If there are
to add.
multiple parcels, he does have a
Top-
graduated schedule, and that's within the contract. It's not a whole lot of difference, but if there are multiple
I think it
parcels,
goes from
say,
like from 700 to like 650, then to 625, I think, something like, it
Multiple
scales down
parcels
the
for
more
the
you
same
give.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the flat fee is 700, but.
Then it says
but
all the incurred expenses.
Right. I'm talking about all the expenses.
Right.
Right.
Historical,
you want to know what an average,
of historical.
right.
Why don't you bring that, have everything sent to us, and then we'll be ready to make a decision by
Okay.
the next meeting.
We can do that. That won't be a problem. And also to let you know, we do have our signs in. We haven't got them out on the properties yet.
They look good in your office, though.
Yeah, they look good in my office. I contemplated sticking one out in the front yard out there, but I didn't know if Toby would like that or not. So, but anyway, they are in my office right now if y'all would like to come by and see them. They look real well.
I think we need to get one on the Tuggee Road.
We'll
property
get one out there.
as soon as we can.
Also,
Nathan.
something else I wanted to mention to y'all, I had sent out an email, I hope you all did receive it, in reference to our listing abstracts. This year, with everything we've had going on with those, we finally got the abstracts in a week ago, last Wednesday afternoon. We, in printing them, have only printed the listing abstracts that have, for those that have personal property they need to list, or if it's real estate where they're receiving the homestead exemption, if there's been any change with that. So those that only have real estate, no personal property to list, you will not be receiving a listing abstract. The statutes provide for us to be on a permanent listing system with the real property, so therefore it's basically the county's responsibility to list that property. It's only the taxpayer's responsibility to let us know if there are any changes with that property, which with new construction and things of that nature, we pick up through the building inspector's office. It wasn't our intent for that to be the case this year, but that is where we've ended up. And we're thinking that maybe if it, works out okay, it may be something we want to continue to do in the future. It does save on postage, and it also may enable us to look more at outsourcing the listing abstracts instead of printing them in house. I was not pleased with the abstracts that we received this year at all. Some of them, you open them, we've had some come back that are just as plain as they can be, and we've had others come back where the carbon is so bad you can't hardly read what's on them. And so I have not been pleased with them at all. But if you have any questions in reference to that, that's the deal with them. Or if you're not real sure what the deal is, just have the folks call us and we'll explain it. Right. Okay, we'll move on to the collector's report. There is really nothing major to report on this. I will point out we did receive a little over $10,000 in January from Travis Ellis's office, and $10,000 of that came from one individual, and I think you all know who that probably is. Also, to call your attention to our overall collection rate, and this was part of your discussion earlier today, you see where in the month of January we've kind of caught up with that nice-looking over 3% collection rate last month. So right now we're still a little over 0.5% of where we were last year at this time. So that has kind of, apparently we had folks that paid a little more during December this year than what they did the year before. Do y'all have any questions in reference to that report?
Yeah, I do, Renee. All right, so the percent is 86.59%, right?
That is as of the end of January, our collection rate,
Okay.
yes.
All right, I took the reciprocal of that, which is 13.41%. Then it tells me the 2011 outstanding levy is $776,000. If you divide that number by 13.41%, you get $5,790,682. Now the budget, based on what Sandy was talking about in there, says $5,953,000.
That wasn't based on my figures.
What wasn't based on it?
If you'll go to the second page of that budget ordinance, you'll see where the figures do not balance with the other figures that are in the budget ordinance.
Okay, well, bear with me. On the budget ordinance says $5,953,000. That's $162,000 differential. That's where the concern over the motor vehicles comes to me. So now, up at the top here, we got $355,000 worth of motor vehicles. Take the 355 and add it to the 5790. That's why I'm really questioning, what are they all inclusive?
They're very all-inclusive.
But it doesn't appear from these numbers that is true.
Well, when we turn over...
I think part of the discrepancy in that number is you're looking at 100% versus 95% collection.
I understand that, but if you take 5790 and you take and multiply that by 95% is different than taking 5,953,000 times 95%. So the number is either right or wrong. Now, if you take the 5790 and add the 300 to it and do the 95%, it falls back in line.
You
So I'm
can't
just trying to
take
figure out
the
what is right
figures-
and what's wrong.
You can't take the figures that we estimate for budget and hold it true to the actual accurate figures,
I
because
understand.
we have
The
different
levy
things
changes
that
during the
figure
year.
into it.
And the levy changes during the year, right?
The levy
People add
changes
things.
during the year.
That is correct.
And even with
that's
motor
the issue.
vehicles, all we can do is take the prior year levy and estimate that for what the current year is going to be. That's all we can do, is estimate that value. Now, with what we have currently billed right now, to date with motor vehicles, because we've still got part of this year to go, we have billed for, I think it was between $40,000 and $45,000 more than what is reflected with the figures that I turned in for the budget.
Okay. All right, we would agree on motor vehicles. If no one in Gates County went out and bought a new vehicle in the year 2011, the tax valuation should come down. Is that
It
correct?
should decrease, yes.
So, over the last 5 years, could we take and plot what the change in the valuation of those motor vehicles, which tells me the depreciation value as well as the acquisitions and retirements, and see what the trend line is? Can you get those to me?
I can't get that information with the software that we have. I mean, I could have someone extract that information,
Right.
but it's going to cost the county.
Well, I'm just curious to see how this trend, and what I'm doing is going back and looking at the budget ordinance and try to see those numbers and make the comparable relationships.
Toby, are they aware of what happened as to where that number came from?
Oh, yeah, I understand.
Okay.
We talked about that.
Okay.
And that's the concern. If you take this, then it gives you a different appearance, in other words, what it does.
Well, it's going to be different from what you've actually budgeted, because
again-
we can't do the exact science as to what we're going to exactly build. I can't tell you how many folks you're going to have come before you, the Board of E&R, and what y'all are going to do with them, or how many folks we're going to have apply for
And believe
land use that takes revenue away, so it's not an exact science when it comes to those figures for
I
the budget,
understand that.
unfortunately.
And that's what we're trying to say here today, and that's what the discussion was with Sandy. I'm not at all concerned with the 308, because it is nothing. It's a target. It's that the number that really counts is the one that Cal put in the paper when that thing says it grew by 559. This one is important, because this is something you can stand on. That's
Not
all
my
I'm trying to
department,
say.
Johnny.
I know. I understand that. I am trying to understand this, though, and how the relationships are, because like I said, when I look at that, it does become a little misleading to me when I take the percents and apply those numbers back across there and come these and start adding them together and try to make reference to it and I realize it's a moving target.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate you sending me the delinquent taxpayer list. And I will tell you folks, it was some improvement, looks to me like.
There was some real improvement on one,
And
which
I hope-
I'm glad
and
to
I-
see.
and-
Hope it continues.
And I hope the group up here, we are under the understanding that we're going to put 10 years delinquent in the paper again, right?
I'm
Is
going to talk
everybody-
about that in just a second, because
Okay.
I'm going to need a motion on that. Are there any other questions in reference to the collector's report? Okay, if not, in reference to what Johnny just brought up, as of today, the tax liens on real property are in the amount of $672,306.68. That figure does include any properties that we may have that are involved in bankruptcy, because we're not allowed to advertise those tax liens. So that is the figure right now. And to bring up a little something else with this, if you go back to your collector's report, you'll notice that our outstanding levy for 2011 is $776,000. So you see that the majority of that is real property. So if you went to the 1-year foreclosure instead of 2 years, you would probably realize a little bit more of that than what you normally would. But that is our property tax liens at the time, and I just need an order from y'all to advertise those tax liens as of the 1st of March, and I do need to know the direction if you want to do as we did last year and advertise all years that are owed, or if you just want to advertise the current year.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, she needs a motion.
I make a motion that the tax supervisor publish the delinquent tax year, 10-year delinquent taxes in Gates County in the next edition after March 1st.
All right, we've got a motion and a second.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, you got it.
Thank you. One more thing,
All right.
bear with me. We have a request for surplus and disposition of assets. Did they get a copy of that?
They do. You have a copy of what she's about to explain, but you also have 2 more in your manila folders that are from today. So I don't know if you want to deal with all 3 at one time.
Just dispose of them all at one time while we're here.
Right.
I'll have one.
Should be 1 from water, 1 from tax, and 1 from planning.
Few more sheets back.
I've got the 4 from planning.
Keep going through. I think it's in here somewhere.
Maybe it's behind. No, I don't
There
have
you
it.
go.
All right, we've got 3. You want to go ahead and do yours, Renee, and then we'll do the other 3 while we're in the process of doing this.
That's fine. This is the copier that we had, and I don't know if y'all remember back when we worked on the budget. The copier that we had, the maintenance was so high on it, we were actually able to purchase a new copier for what the maintenance on this one was going to cost for 2 years. And of course, I think the current maintenance on this one is about a fourth what the maintenance on the old one was. And so once we put the new one in place, we did put out to the county departments if anyone was interested in it, because it did still work, but it was no longer under maintenance. And I think we had one to come back that was interested, but the copier does not have a network card in it, and it's really not worth the money to put a network card in it for them to use it. So at this point, no one seems to want the copier.
All right. All right, the other one, you want to go over the other two here? We got one from planning department,
Sure.
which is a truck.
As part of the sheriff's yearly acquisition of vehicles, he is going to cycle out his black Malibu that I think was Hawk's car, and then the deputy, then the chief's before that. Morgan has an Explorer that is obviously not in as well a condition as the Malibu. I'm going to recommend that you flip-flop the two, give Morgan the Malibu, and put her Ford Explorer on Gov Deals to be sold.
What year is that?
Which one, sir?
Ford Explorer.
2000.
No, the
Right.
Ford.
This is the Ford,
2000.
the Explorer. Okay.
So that's my recommendation on that, is to flip-flop the two and then put Morgan's actually on Gov Deals. And then the water department is, I don't have the water
Yeah,
department.
broken,
Oh,
they've
yeah.
got some broken water meters, old well casings, and old broken valves. He wants to dispose of them. He has a, Big Bucks Recycling here in the county has given him a good offer price, and it's a local business, and he would like to dispose of them through the local business scrap.
Correct.
Timmy, you want to say a little something on that right quick?
I had several folks call wanting to buy the old meters, and they gave me a flat rate that I thought was a decent price, but after taking the meters to 3/4, the 1-inch and the 2-inch meters, two Big Bucks, and individually weighing them and letting him make an offer by weight, it actually come out more money doing it by weight than their flat fee. The 1-inch meter, they were offering me less, but the 3/4 and the 2-inch by far compensated for that difference and then some.
Okay.
And then the other scrap iron is just old rusted casings, or we pulled out and refurbished wells and valves has been replaced. Everything we're getting rid of was purchased 77, 78, 79 in that time frame. It's all original.
Okay, thanks, Timmy. All right, we've got three surplus items here. I have a motion to dispose of as requested.
So moved.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, thank you.
Renee, I want to ask you one question.
Yes, sir.
So we got this copier and we got a new one, right?
Yes.
Does that have the scan-to-file capabilities in it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we're, Timmy.
The last day meeting, we approved a policy for extension of water main of 1,000 foot or less. That has been since amended into the existing rules and regulations in section 7 as Part E. And just need an official vote to add that to our existing rules and regulations.
All right, gentlemen, y'all were here last week when we approved the amendment to the rules and regulations. We just need to accept it in the rules and regulations. Do I have a motion to accept it?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right,
Thank you, gentlemen.
got one more thing, Tim.
Before you leave, you should have in your packet or in your manila envelope a notice of award letter. On the 19th, bids for the sewer were done, opened. This is the lowest bidder. This is not accepting the actual work. Right, you should have a highlighted green line. This is not accepting the the company, this is simply saying that it is the intent of the county to accept them in the future. Gus is going to come probably to the March meeting and bring you the actual contracts to discuss with you. This just gives the company the ability to start their insurance process and bidding process, bid bond process. This is what you have in front of you.
So, that's $940,055 said, and what I had said that it was phase one. How does this relate to the $2.6 million that was originally forecast?
Relate in terms of?
Cost. Is this, are we comparing apples to apples?
For phase one, yes. You're looking.
So we overestimated by
No.
1.6 million.
No. 2.6 is for the facility phases 1 and 2, correct?
No, that's not correct. It was 5.2 million was the documents that you gave to me.
No.
Yes, it was.
Well,
5.2 ain't never been
I've
said.
never seen a
Yes, it
5.2
has.
number.
No.
Yes, it has.
No.
I beg to differ. I got emails that I can show
Okay.
you that.
You better bring them then, because all emails
That's
I've
right.
seen, we were never over.
We've never been
Matter
over
of fact, in
5.2
the
million.
conversation with Gus and Toby, because I ran those CIPs and I sent two CIPs on 2.6 million and CIPs on 5.2 million to each of you.
Okay, no. I mean, if you have that, that's great. We can talk about it when Gus comes, but at no point has this construction project been
So
$5.2 million.
when will phase one be complete, and when will phase 2 and 3 be complete if 2.6 encompass all of those?
When we reach
It'll be,
50,000 gallons.
yeah, as soon as you tell him to move to the next phase.
I think the first phase is up to, get us up to 50,000 gallons per day.
That's the,
Phase 1 puts the pipe in the ground to refurbish the pipe and get it back to the facility. And then when you do the wastewater treatment facility, which is not included in this, is when you would move to 50,000 gallons a day.
this is, just phase one is the lines and the pump stations to get to this existing system that's
And
there
you
now.
need to send me that document then, because if I'm
Send you what
mistaken,
document?
the one with the 2.6 where you show the cost on phase 1, 2, and 3. Because I think if I go back and research my files, and I know if you go look at your CIPs, you will see that you've got them with 5.2 million and 2.6 million.
I think we're getting confused on what phases we're talking about. This phase one, I'm thinking, is the same phase 1 and 2 of the overall project.
This will run piping down Sony Lane, down Commerce Drive, back to 158, down 158 to the pump station, back down Honey Pot to the facility, and then run the piping from about the middle school back to the facility.
Well, I'm thinking this is in support of getting us to the 50,000.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when we say phase 1 here, we're not talking of phase 1 or phase 2 of
Now, that may be true.
of putting piping in. It's the phase 1 of the
Entire project.
of the entire phase 1 sewer system. Now, we've got a projected phase 2 and 3 that's going to take us to 100,000.
Well, that's what
Now,
I'm
that's
talking
way
about.
That's a different phase. I think we're in
All
a
right,
different
so that's what I'm trying to
situation there.
understand.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be dependent on build out and other customers or whatever that comes on. So that's not even in the picture.
So this is phase 1A. Then we're going to have phase 1B and phase 1C? Is that what we're saying?
We've
I think
actually,
phase 1 is
we've
50,000
actually,
gallons.
we have actually only approved the system to go to 50,000 gallons,
That's right.
and that is the 2.9,
Right.
whatever the number is. And
So that has 3 stages in it.
Yeah. Well,
Actually, I
Depends
think
upon
it's
what you're
down
counting
to
as a
kind of
stage.
2 stages now, because the original stage 1 and 2 have been merged together to give all the infrastructure for collections as well as gravity and force mains to get the effluent to the treatment facility. Phase 2 is more of the actual treatment facility and modifications to the site, as well as some minor extensions to the collection system within the Commerce Park.
See, now we're making sub-phases.
That's right.
But,
That's what's confusing here.
Well,
I think that when you say that 5 point, that is, if we go, we're not even, that far. That'll be, the phase one, as you're talking about, is the sewer plant, the 50,000, and the collection system.
And that may be true.
That's major phase one.
I just know, I was
2.6 million.
provided with two documents, phase one and phase two.
If we decide to go to 100,000 gallon, that's when we go to that point.
Okay.
All
So,
right, This
five-
this is the bid for phase one of the phase one, if you want to say that, is the line set coming down the line, down the road, and getting to the existing sewer plant. This is the bid on it.
Okay. So, with this
Which
bid,
the lowest bid was $940,000.
so with encompassing that $2.6 million bid, how does this 940 compare to the budget that we had for this stage?
Right now, it's about 60,000 over, but that's why it says, or lesser value construction and engineering and negotiations, because from now to the time Gus comes back to you, he's gonna work with HG Reynolds to value engineer and to negotiate to get it closer to our budgeted number.
So that number was 880,000,
Yeah,
Yep.
880.
and we got unfavorable variance of 60,000 as the way it stands right now.
Right.
As it stands today, yes.
This is a letter of intent for us to move forward.
Now, is that, well, it probably isn't. How does that relate to the deficiency that Mike Scott was addressing on the grants? That has nothing to do with this, right?
Well, it's related in that the grants are paying for part of it.
I understand that, Toby.
Within-
Mike Scott stood up there and said of the original projections on the grants, and we were gonna have about a 300, we originally had $80,000 positive, and it went to a negative 300. Is that correct?
What are you talking about, Donnie?
I'm talking about what Mike Scott said,
Did negative 300.
that the grants weren't gonna mature up to the amount of money.
The original, we determined the original was $300,000. That was that we were gonna actually, we had it guaranteed out of our money. That's where we were when we started the project. I mean, the whole time, that's where we started at, and we're still there.
Well, the night that Mike was here, and which is, 3 months ago, I asked him specifically, and he said that was correct, that we were gonna be $300,000 unfavorable with the grants that we expected to receive. Now, that has nothing to do with what we plan to put into the pot.
No, that 300 was what we were gonna put in the project,
Well, then, there's no deficiency then, right?
other than this bid is 60,000 over what the
Okay.
budgeted number is. That's what we're trying to say. This bid is 60,000 over the budget number.
And that's
And they're
good.
gonna try to bring that 60 down to the budgeted number. This is a letter of an intent for us to move forward so that the contractor can move forward with his bonding process.
No problem.
All right, do we have a motion to accept this letter of intent?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right. Thanks, Tim. Is that all you got?
Clean copy, I'll sign this before I leave today.
All right, let me see. Can we take a quick break again? I reckon I'm chairman. Next on our agenda, Morgan. We scrapped the landscape ordinance and the proposed. 4 and 5 were scrapped from this one. I forgot to catch that while ago. I didn't get it off the sheet.
Can you hear me now? All right, we have first thing is Carolyn Morris on the CDBG Scattered Site Grant Closeout and Public Hearing. She was just here. We'll move on to the preliminary plat, and we'll just go back to her.
Okay.
We had the preliminary plat review for Eastern Pride Incorporated. The planning board discussed this at their last meeting, and it was approved. There were a couple of slight just changes that need to be made. They were done by Ms. Peden. She is the engineer, and she is here. So if you have any questions, feel free.
So we're here for the preliminary plat approval. Gentlemen, this is the plat of property in Sunbury across from the family food store now. I believe it's gonna be the Family Dollar store. If there are any questions, you need to ask Morgan on this issue. If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the preliminary plat.
I'd like to ask the engineer a couple of questions. I was noticing on the documents here with your sewer system. And I'm truly amazed that Family Pride didn't accept to go in front of the high school at Merchants Commerce Park. Evidently, they must have done some market research, I would think. But anyhow, in light of that, I see there's, looks like are these 1,000-gallon tanks
Yes, sir.
in tandem here?
That would be a septic tank and a pump tank. Because of the grades, we are having to go with a standard system. However,
Right.
we're having to pump up because of the water table and that sort of thing. That is a 3-foot by 120-foot. We only produce about 125 gallons a day. It's a
Right.
very low flow facility.
And is this a field in here or something? You gonna modify the field, the drain field any?
Not planning on modifying a drain field. It will be a standard drain field.
Right.
But it will be, the actual septic tank will be lower, then we're going to pump up to a standard system.
And like with,
And it's a 3-foot wide trench with the stone and the pipe, just like any other. We will actually pump to a distribution box,
right.
and then it will drain just as any other standard septic system.
So, now do you know any of the statistical data on, as the engineer, do you work for Family Pride or you just a?
I'm a consultant to the builder who does design builds for Eastern Pride.
Right.
And this is probably my 12th or 13th one that I've done in Eastern North Carolina.
So, could you tell me on average how many employees they have?
They usually have 5 on staff at any time, so we figure their sewer based on 5 employees.
On site?
On site, yes, sir. And then they usually have about 8 total employees with 2 managerial, and they will have, which are full-time with benefits, and then they have, the others are part-time that they come and rotate in during their hours of operation.
And what are they going to be the hours of operation?
Usually they are from 8 in the morning till 9 at night, but I think weekends might be a little different. I don't know exactly what Family Dollar's
Do you have any
operating
idea
hours.
what their statistical basis of customers per hour rates are?
No, sir. I know because I have gotten their driveway permit, we have 125 trips a day is what they kind of figure on people coming. I believe that's between a $700,000 and $800,000 a year store. I think that is what that community kind of gross, and I think that is what that store is. Do not quote me on that because that's not my area of expertise. However, I do believe the other ones that I've done have been at that level.
So their model is on grossing less than $1 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions about the preliminary plat presented to us today? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept the preliminary plat, move it on back to the planning board.
I make a motion we accept the plat as presented.
Do you have any second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate y'all coming to Gates County.
Thank you. Yes. They look forward to it.
All right.
Okay, and now we're going to go back to item number 1. We're going to go to Carol Morris, the CDBG Scattered Site Grant Closeout Public Hearing.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
Hello, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. We've come to this moment, and I'm very, very happy. I really, really am. Okay. The grant was for, Scattered Site Grant Project was for $400,000. To date, we have spent $382,837.25. We have funds in the amount of $17,162.75 left. Now, the plans were to demolish and clear 3 units and build houses back on the sites. We've done the 3 units and have added an additional 1, so we've done a total of 4. The average cost per house for those 4 houses with the hard costs that included the new house, the septic tank, demolition, disposal of debris, and the tree stump removal. The average cost was $78,761, which is pretty good. Now, the unspent, the remaining $17,000 and the remaining $17,162.75 that needs to be drawn down from the state before we can close out. The final temporary funds, some of these things have been paid, and some of them need to be, all of them need to be reimbursed back to the county, but there are new things that have to be paid. But $465 for Irma Lee Parker for her temporary relocation funds for December, and then through January the 8th was $120. With reimbursing the county, somehow when I went back through my paperwork, I discovered that the county had not been reimbursed for the disposal of the demolition debris for Gate School Road. So that was $2,364.78 that the county needs to get back from the state. The advertisement for this closed-out public hearing, I had estimated it at $175, but it was only $123.36. Now, when we came, when the state came down to look at the monitoring of the project, we looked at the houses. They decided that we needed to install downspouts and gutters. And at the time, Mr. Chappell, Mr. Quick gave you a cost of $250. Well, it's more than that, but we've got the money to do so. Mr. Godfrey, who built the houses, he provided me with an estimate for the total cost of the gutters, the downspouts, and the pad, the step-off pad that needs to be done, and it's $1,100 per house. Now, the remaining funds, $11,889.61. The Almar Commission would appreciate it if they could get that. What is happening, the county still owes the commission $4,576.75 on the old contract. Sometime back, there was a discussion to increase the commission's contract with $7,000 if the new house and everything was done, and that has been accomplished. So this is where we are. And that would bring the total expenditures to the $17,162.75 left. If we don't spend it all, we just have to de-obligate it back to the state, and they really like to see the county to spend all the money.
Henry, you got anything you want to say? You sit on the Alamo Commission.
Yeah, well, I think it's been a great job in providing the homes for the citizens of the county. Through this grant, we saved a lot of money. We got some good bid quotes and followed up on them. Albemarle Commission, which is a board that I sit on, they indicated that they had some costs that they felt needed to be covered that they didn't anticipate when they first contracted with the county. I would like to see those honored. I work with the commission. I know that they operate on a close budget. They do try to provide the best service that they can. I can vouch for that. So, providing there's no problems with giving out this cost or using the figures, at this point in stage, I have no problem with moving forward and obligating the $17,000 as requested.
And plus, there shouldn't be any, but I would like to also say this to you all. I am a private consultant myself, and my first concern is always the grantee. Now, the monitoring visit has been completed and so forth, and we can't close out until we spend all this money. So what I would like to say to you all is this. I really have enjoyed working on this project. We've had our ups and downs and so forth and so on, but the project cannot be closed out until the monitoring response comes back from the state. And so right now, I've covered everything that they told me to do the day that they left. Also, there is a warranty on the last two units, 'cause it's almost up on the first two. On the last two units, there's a warranty for 1 year. Morally, this is just me. Morally, I feel obligated to follow up on those complaints that may come within that year's time. It's no problem for me. Contractually, with the Albemarle Commission, that's another story. But I will, because this is what I do for the grantee that I work for, because the people know me, and it kind of takes a burden off the county, so to speak. So what I would do is, if there is a problem, I will handle it, but I'll let y'all know what's going on and keep you abreast of what happened, because it'll be from December 2011 until December 2012, basically. So that's a year. That's a year's time. I know the contractors with my future projects, they'll probably still be working with me and so forth, so I won't have any problems, you know, getting in touch with them and getting them to do things. But I did want y'all to let y'all know that. But we cannot close the project out until all the monies are expended. And I will get the closeout documentation to you, which will be a zero balance once everything is done. And Mrs. Swine, one more thing. I think Morgan may have given you an extension request to obligate the funds that we had to send in to Raleigh.
Have you got that, Morgan? Okay.
It should have gone yesterday.
All right, I think, didn't we agreed to, if we got to the end of the budget, that we would increase, their payment of $7,000, I believe it was agreed by the board.
I think what you agreed to was to revisit it when you got to the end. I think there was some concern by some of the board members that the contract called for a certain amount, and that's what the contract called for. So, that's the last discussion I recollect you guys having about it.
It's toward the bottom of that first letter there, and that almost the bottom paragraph. Paragraph next to the bottom.
Says here, if the money, commissioners are willing to address the situation, however, only after fourth house is complete and all costs have been identified. If there is amount that they will pay that we consider raising the administrative cost amount that they will pay the Albemarle Commission.
Which is what I said, that y'all would come back and revisit it at the completion.
So basically, there's another $11,889.61 will be available. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What's this 312.86 underneath that?
Oh, that was the difference between the difference between the 1,000. Hold on. That's the difference between the available. Oh, that's the difference between $11,576.75 and the $11,889.61.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure on this?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to follow through with the closeout, allotting the leftover costs to cover the Albemarle expense as identified.
This $7,000 increase, what was that?
That's what we asked for.
All right, but we're actually,
And these are all the costs you got left here, includes that number. This is what you got available.
oh, okay, so the 7,000 is built into that number. All right, you made that a motion? Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, And that will close out the project now, right?
Yes, sir, but this money will not be ordered until the change order is completed and everything is done and set in place, okay?
Okay.
All right,
Thank you, ma'am.
and I thank you all so much.
Okay. Okay, Morgan.
All right, again, we're moving on to our CDBG consultant selection. We tabled this last time. I sent out an email to our 2 respondents, asking them to break down the costs. And as you will see in what I gave you, the letter from Pat Chrisman, it is still $3,500 to complete the application and get it sent in by the March 31st deadline. For the Coastal Innovative Adventures LLC, it's $10,000.
Mr. Chairman, I talked to Mike about this as far as what the confusion was, and I think the answer is before you select your contractor or your administrator, they can only give you this 3,500 number, which is the completion of the application number. They can't get into what they're going to do as far as the administrative cost yet. That's a CDBG rule, as I've understood it
Correct.
from Mike. So
Correct.
that's why the number is going to be 40,000 when it's all over.
Correct.
But they can only contract with you for the actual planning part right now.
Application preparation is the only service you can procure prior to submitting the grant application.
And the grant application hasn't been put in yet, is that right?
Not yet, it's due the 31st of March.
Right. That's what you're discussing, is the contract to write it.
So in retrospect, then regardless of which one you choose, it's gonna be 40,000, is that what you intended to say?
Yes,
Pretty much.
that's what it's going to be. It's 10% of the grant. They know that. CDBG knows that. Everyone knows that. That's what they're going to bill you for.
We can't change that, right?
So then it becomes down to I guess and I don't have the documents of the people that were involved, of looking at their credentials, or, I mean, that's the only thing you got to gauge on if it's gonna cost you
No,
the same thing.
We had that. That was provided.
Yeah, I know it was. I don't have it here, Henry.
You want to take a look at it? I had looked at them, I had already chosen, thought the Wheaton Company was the best,
They have very extensive credentials.
the best choice myself, so. If you need to make a few minutes and look over them.
I think the only issue was that one of the applicants was female small business, and the other one was not. The larger company was able to do it at $3,500 versus $10,000. So, there again, that was quite a disparity in the cost. And that's what we certainly have to consider.
And Wooten has a very extensive resume, as you can see, with all the projects they've completed in our area.
Carolyn
The,
Morris, you had come on, John, you had a public hearing, did you have to have a public hearing for that closeout? I'm sorry, I was just looking at over that. We need to go back a minute, gentlemen.
Are we continuing from the previously advertised public hearing? This is a continuation of the previously advertised public hearing? Yeah.
It was advertised.
So we need to have a public hearing to close out this project, right? All right. We need a motion to go into public hearing for the closeout of the scattered site grant closeout.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, we're in public hearing for any public input on the closeout of the scattered site housing, CDGB. Are there any public comments on this closeout for the grant that we have just used and finalized? Public got kind of scarce around here after lunchtime. All right, if not, we'll entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Got a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, we're out of public hearing. Thank you, Carolyn. All right. Sorry, Morgan.
No problem.
I was looking over the agenda and it
Glad
was
you
written
caught
there.
that. glad you caught it. So again, we're down to Wooten for the cost of $3,500, and we're Coastal Adventures Innovative for $10,000.
All right, do we have a motion to accept one of these companies to administer the grant for the housing for the next year?
I'll make a motion that we accept Wooten Company to submit the application for our CDBG scatter site grant.
All right, we've got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Excellent. And last thing, the appointment of the Coastal Resources
Yeah,
Advisory Council.
we appointed Carlton, he agreed to take this appointment. This was the appointment that Willie Earl had and resigned from the Coastal Resources Advisory Committee. He contacted Diane this week and said he was going to be unable to accept that appointment. Morgan has talked to Morgan, and she said she would be willing to do this and take the appointment to be our appointee representative to this committee. Are there any other, does anybody have any other suggestions or a motion?
How often do they meet?
Quarterly. They are having a meeting upcoming February the 8th and 9th in Nags Head. Usually they're in Beaufort at Pivers Island, but this time they're coming closer to us. So.
That would be 2 days that you would have to be attending.
Yes, sir.
I think it'd probably be advantage to have a county employee on this, to bring information back to us.
As a Kama County, you're supposed to have a representative. Randy held the position formerly, and we never filled it. It's been vacant since, and we do need to be active with them.
I have a motion, we appoint Morgan to serve as our representative on this committee.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
All right, we've already done the surplus vehicle, right?
Let me ask you a question about this Wooten and the other one. So we say the total cost is $40,000, and now we've allocated one at $35,000. To do that, $3,500 to allocate that. Can you have a grant administrator different than the application?
I am not certain of that.
Yes.
All right, so then in that case, if this company here had originally allocated $10,000 towards the application itself, that leaves a balance of $30,000 for the other.
Well, they're not going to be obligated to the $10,000 when they resubmit.
I understand that.
Right.
I'm saying that in their original proposal
I understand what you're saying, yes. But the answer is going to be when they resubmit, they're going to resubmit at 36.5 because they know what you've obligated in the plan.
No, what would these resubmit at?
That's what I'm telling you. That's what they're going to resubmit at 36.5 because they know that's how much you have left for admin.
The other one will probably submit at 40,000.
The other one's going to submit it.
They're going to get their 40,000.
That seems a little disingenuous, doesn't it? I wouldn't know I'd want to do any business with somebody doing that.
Well, they could
They're
come
going to
in,
get 40,000.
they could come in less.
Yeah. Do what?
They could come in at less. It's just like with Albemarle Commission.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We got $360,000 left, but if their cost was 30, we'd have 10 more thousand to be able to apply towards, a home or whatever. So,
Well, I'm just asking, it looks to me as kind of interesting that you would put the grant administration back out for bid and see how, if in fact what Toby said happens.
It's
And
going
if
to
it
happen.
does, then I would have a different opinion of those people that originally submitted the bid.
It's going to happen.
If they put up-
You're going to spend $40,000 for writing and administering it. I can tell you that, no matter how you divvy up the math.
They already knew that. All right, next on our agenda, I've got on the old business, just going to touch base on the Clearscapes project for the courthouse across the road. Basically, what we had talked about before was in the March evening meeting, we're going to do some input from the public, and we're going to advertise it for the evening meeting, for a public meeting to come to the talk about the old courthouse. I've had 2 people that are interested in sitting on the committee. We'll make a decision after that public meeting that the committee and go forward from that point on. I think that's where we need to go with this now.
That's when?
That'll be the night meeting in March. All right, next one there, we've got our new business. Last month, we discussed the per-page cost to have copies made when requested, copies from the county of any minutes or anything like that, because there is a cost to the county. So I asked the manager to put some numbers together and bring it back to us, and I believe this is his numbers of what we would he recommended us charge for any copies that are requested from citizens for copies of any minutes or anything on that order. Y'all got it before you, 3.6 cents plus 1.4 cents would be approximately 5 cents per page per copy. That's for letter size. For color copies, it'd be 10 cents, and for all others, larger or smaller, would be 25 cents.
This is well and good, and I agree with that if a person wants a hard copy, but as I asked Renee a few minutes ago about the copier with scan capabilities, matter of fact, I think what we need to start doing is these pamphlets that we got here with these documentation of our citizens out here have absolutely no idea what we're talking about, that we invest in a screen back here and project the documents on the screen so that our citizens can see what we're discussing up here and talking about. Does anybody know what we've been talking about this morning? So, you know, it's all about openness and public awareness. We have electronic means today that we do not have to do this. We're getting ready to get in and I work for a paper company. I like to see you buy paper, but I also like to see you be efficient. And with the technologies that we have today, it's very easy to do. Doesn't require a lot of investment to actually do this. Now, if a person wants a hard copy and you send them an electronic file and they want to print it on their printer, so be it. Sometimes it doesn't require that. It just requires that person to look at it, scan it, have an idea what he wants to do. There's so many ways to produce documents today. Something the size of your thumb, you can put almost an encyclopedia on it. So, you know, this is well and good, but we need to be responsive to our citizens and provide it to them in any means that they would like for it to be, as the General Satcher says, that it's capable of doing that. Now, I do want you to, if you want a piece of paper, you pay for the paper. No question about that. That's, you know, that's common sense. But electronic file on a copier there where, in this case, we're going to do it anyhow, probably in some cases. I don't know, at some time it is being copied, that it has electronic document associated with it that you can readily give to a citizen. Say, hey, you got your thumb drive? Let me have it. And you give it to them.
All right, now let's talk about the copies. Is this something you're willing to accept at this point?
I think it's very liberal.
Oh, yeah.
And I would like to see that, any motion that was made to accept this cost, this cost is only for public documents retained by the county and provided to the citizens at their request. In other words, I might want to come in and have you run my tax documents off of this cost.
We'll play on charge
Yes.
to you.
So, but
That's what we got the library for.
well, we need it. I just like to see it specified. Public records.
You want to make that as a motion that we accept these prices for the
Provision.
sole use of conveying copies to the citizens of public records?
So moved.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Now, I'd like to make a motion that any citizen that requires or wants a document, that requests a document and asks for it to be scanned is so provided.
We'll probably need to get up a price for that for time, if we
There
have
is
to
no
do that.
price.
Well, we got to find if there's any time involved in this. I mean, a lot of people forget about time and time to do things.
And
They-
Graham, time is a fixed cost. It's also an obligation to the citizens of this county.
I'm not saying it's not an obligation, but when you start putting jobs on people that have got jobs, you've got to determine what time it takes.
And you do it one time.
You do it one time for every person it calls.
No, you don't. You do it one time, period. You got a file, then you say, here it is.
So all right. Oh, that's a motion. Do we have a second on that motion?
Matter of fact, I might add that the general statutes do so state that.
Actually, no, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No,
No,
the
they
general
don't.
statute says that you're not obligated to put in an electronic medium any document that's not normally stored in an electronic medium. If you'd like to walk over to my office after it's done, I'll give you a
Toby,
copy of the statute.
I have done read that too many times.
We got a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
All right. Motion dies. Now, I don't have a problem with looking in the cost of doing that, Johnny. Don't get me wrong. But just to arbitrarily do it without even thinking about cost, and you being a financial wizard, I would think that would be part of your thought on that. If it is a cost to it, we should find out what the cost is.
I wouldn't have said it if I hadn't already known that.
Okay. How many do you do in the county office? How much work do you do in the county office?
Don't do
We'll go
anything.
far enough then. Thank you. Gosh. All right, I think that's everything on the agenda except for final comment. Citizens' comment is the next on the agenda. I believe we got one or two. All right, sign back up again. Anthony, you have something else you'd like to say?
I might not need this. But what I brought up before, the first comment I brought up was about, people making, funny things behind the camera system, things that shouldn't be set up there, like laugh and all that kind of mess. If they got something they want to say, bring it up front. That's all I can say about that.
Okay, thank you.
And about the electronical paperwork and stuff, I like an old-fashioned style paper.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, commissioner comments. Kenny?
Certainly thank everybody for coming, and the ones that stayed for the whole duration. Thank you. And I hope you have a nice month of February coming up. And I hope our weather continues to stay pretty like it is. Thank you.
Johnny?
As Kenny said, I appreciate everyone being here. It is a special time. We're in a new year. There's a lot going to be happening. I have several things that I'm working on that I think will be enlightening to you. And whether anything's done on it, I can't answer that. But there are a lot of things going on that I think that we can do better. You may agree, you might not agree. But I will grant you this. There will be opportunities to save money. Might not be a lot of money, but it will be $1. Just like what we were just talking about. Electronically saving paper, saving money, saving trees, being environmentally responsible. It don't take a genius to find it, to think about where our age today is going and to see what the improvements have been over the last, I'd say since 1985 with the true electronic means of the PC, the documents and all. And I worked in an office environment where we had multitudes of people creating paper, checking paper, correcting paper. and now you can do it at the whisk of a fingertip. You can't shut these things out. The world's changing around you. And you must learn to use the tools that are available today. That's regardless of whether you're 18 years old or you're 65 years old or you're 100 years old. You might have an old body, but you can have a young mind and be willing to accept and be motivated to do things better. Every process needs to be changed. There's a lot to be gained. A lot to be gained. And I hope that you would open your mind and be innovative enough to proactive to understand that there are better ways of doing things. Sometimes, in some cases, you can't change them. They're locked in. They're mathematically locked in that you can't change the process. But you can drive efficiency. Efficiency in the process and in the people. But you have to work at it. And a lot of people today are not challenged. You need to be challenged. A lot of kids go to school today and aren't really challenged. I'd rather have a student that made a B or C and had to work hard to get there than I had the one that had an A and didn't do anything. Because it shows down the road. It really shows. Encourage your children, encourage your fellow citizens, and everyone. And I hope that we will do that, and I hope that that education is the cornerstone of success. And it's so important as a parent to try to motivate our children and try to challenge them to excel. Encourage. And things can happen in Gates County, but it's going to take a collectively team effort from everybody working together. That's commissioners and citizens. And if it don't happen, we're not going to get there. And I challenge each and every one of you. As I said before, you challenge me, I will challenge you. And I ask you to challenge these guys up here. That's my duty. I put my hand on the Bible that I would do that. And I pledge it to you, I'm going to continue to do that. To save you the taxpayer money, try to improve your quality of life, because it's dear to me. I like to win. But I'm humble enough to know when I lose or when someone else loses, to the dignity of me to respect that individual. Because not every person is created equal. You will never have that. That's God's job to do that. And I hope you see that and that you will continue to do that and be motivated. Talk to your citizens. Get them to get involved. Become aware. Ask questions. And try to find out what's going on. Period. And as I said, this is an exciting time. It's a challenging time for a lot of people because they're struggling. And it's our duty. God commands you to help your neighbor. Well, the best way you can help your neighbor is sharing the power of knowledge that you have. That's the most important thing you can do, is share your knowledge and make someone else grow. They may become your competitor, but you guess what? If they're competing against you, you will grow because you want to be better. And it pushes everybody. So I challenge you, and I really do appreciate you being here. And I'd like to see more people do that. This is going to be a special month. For all you men out there, go get your wife a Valentine of some kind. Try to increase their face value. Put a smile on somebody's face. Have a great day.
Thank you, Johnny. Henry?
I too want to thank everyone for coming, and I appreciate everyone being here because First of all, this is local government. This government affects you directly. You don't have the opportunity to go to Raleigh and participate in the General Assembly too often. You don't have the opportunity to go to Congress in Washington, D.C., but you can come to your local government and see what the elected officials are doing on your behalf and for the county. So I do thank you. I have a couple of things I want to recognize. First of all, I want to reiterate what's been done. Sydney, I really thank you for all your input. We converse now and then. I thank you for being wanting to be involved in county government as far as participating in committees and so forth. And we need more like you. And so thank you and continue the good work. Last month, or last meeting, we approved waiving the fee of a demolition permit fee.
For the
Houses
that were,
that we
the county
condemn-
had ordered condemned and removed.
Right. I had a citizen who we condemned her home, and she paid the permit fee. I think, I won't disclose, she's paid several thousand dollars to have the house demolished. And, you know, I think it would be only fair if we would consider being retroactive to that $100 permit fee that she paid, which our other citizens will not have to pay. And I promised that I would bring that to the board. I don't have to make it a motion today, I mean, unless the board would like, but I'd like for you to think about it. We've waived the fee for everyone else, and this particular citizen happened to be one of the first to have to pay that permit fee, and certainly it would be welcome for that citizen to be able to have a $100 refund on the cost that was assessed upon her to do that. The last thing, I do appreciate Attorney Godwin providing the legal opinion on the referendum, and it's going to be very helpful in us moving forward, and I do thank you for that.
Thank you, Henry. I agree with you on the fee there. If you want to do that on the next meeting, I have no problem. My personal, on the rest of the guys that make their statement on it.
Diane, would you put that on the agenda?
I'd like to thank everybody that was here today. I agree with Johnny on a lot of things that he said. Education. I know we seem to butt heads a lot up here. It's not unusual, but I do agree on education. I agree on the commitment to try to make sure children have what they need to get their education and to move forward in life. That's one of the reasons that I'm such a hard supporter of building a new library. After going into the old library, I think it's a very important thing in our life to do that as a citizen of Gates County, to move forward for the next 36 years. I had this conversation with somebody last week about the building falling apart and what's happened in 36 years. And I asked them, I said, I was in county government for 3.5 years, and I don't understand a lot of things about county government I haven't understood since I've been here. So I asked them, they've been here in the courthouse for 36 years, why did the place get in such bad shape? And they agreed that people just let things go and didn't do anything proactive for the next 36 years. I'm here thinking about the next 36 years, not tomorrow, not yesterday, not next week. I have to think about the next 36 years. That's one of the reasons I'm so proactive on this library. I hope everybody understands that, and I will stay that way until the end of my term as a commissioner. I'm proactive on that. I do not intend on changing that. I also, at this point, want to let everybody know that I will be intending on filing to run again for commissioner in the 5th District in Gates County when the filing term comes on, and I will be there to file. So y'all have a good day. I appreciate you coming. The ones of you that stay to the end, I know think a lot of Gates County. The ones that leave before lunch probably don't think as much. But we appreciate you coming. Dan, I see your face here every day at the end. Anthony, Miss Annie, all you guys back there, we appreciate it. You're here at the end of the meeting, not just the beginning. Thanks for being here. Thomas, you too, bud. You're here all the time.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go back to $100.
Yes, sir.
How many people actually paid that? Just 2 people?
I don't know, was it 2? Do we know?
It's 2, and that was the point I was gonna make next month, is if you go back for the first, you need to go back for the other one too.
Yeah, that's
That would only make
my
sense.
thoughts also.
Well, we'll make that, we'll put on for the next agenda, we'll go ahead and have the names and everything.
Cannot we make that a motion today? If there's only 2 people, why, we
I have-
can't spend $200?
I
I
have
make
no-
a motion that we reimburse these 2 individuals.
I have no problem with that, I really don't.
I'll
If you want to
second
make that as a motion, we got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right. We need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yes, sir. No, come on, we hadn't closed yet.
How's everybody doing?
Hello, how you doing, sir?
Good. Y'all may-
I need your name and your address where you live at.
Not a problem. You may or may not know me. My name is Lee Brooks. Lee Brooks. I'm the owner of Mo Cuts Barber and Beauty Plus.
No, hey, I see the sign out there when I go by a lot.
Yes, sir. Yes. I live in Gates, but the barbershop is in Gatesville. In retrospect to the library, and I just figured I'd give my comments on it. I understand that the commissioner's jobs is to represent the different areas. I come in contact with folks on each and every area because of my business. I haven't found anybody yet that's in agreement with this library. And me personally, I'm trying to figure out why we're building a library, especially for $1.5 million in Gates County. The issue that I'm having with it is, I guess my question would be, when's the last time have you seen the encyclopedia man come into your house to sell you an encyclopedia?
Have you been over to the library and sat around for a while and seen the people that use the library
Let me-
lately? I just asked that question. I mean-
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Well, the other side, I've heard other reasons for building this library. One of the reasons I've heard was because the county needs more computers or a place for people to go and use computers. We have 3 libraries in the county. We have libraries in all the schools. I don't know personally of any one household that doesn't have at least 1 computer. Now, I don't know of any. Now, those that I do know that don't have computers don't use them. So if they don't use a computer, they're not going to the library to use a computer. Am I making any sense?
I'm listening to what you're saying because I listen to all of it.
Right. Those that don't have a computer in their homes don't use computers anyway. So they're not going to go to the library to use a computer. Now, the other side of what I'm trying to say is, if we're spending $1.5 million on something that's going to be obsolete within the next 5 to 10 years, which I'm talking about books. Books within the next 5 to 10 years are going to be obsolete. It's obvious now. Look at iPads, look at, the Kindles. Everything is going to electronic. So I understand what Mr. Hoare was saying about, not spending this money on the paper and all. So I understand all of that. And I'm in agreement. And me being a businessman myself, I actually had to start moving away. I agree with the old system. I like cash. But everybody's not carrying cash anymore. Because of that, I have to now move along with the people that are carrying cards. If not, I'm losing money. So even though I don't like this new movement, either I can roll with it or get rolled over, if that makes any sense. So having said that, I just think we need to do we need something in the county? I agree. Do we need a $1.5 million library in the county? That's a whole nother state. The other reason, and my last comment, but the other thing that I was told about this library, that the reason it came about was because of the grant that has been awarded to refurbish the old courthouse. Am I correct?
That wasn't the fact.
That's not.
There was no grant.
No grant.
No grant at all.
Okay.
All taxpayer dollars.
Okay.
No grant whatsoever.
No grant, but taxpayer dollars is going to have to refurbish the courthouse.
No, we don't know that. We haven't gone that far yet. If we get it, we'll work on grants for this project. We don't know that we'll get them, but we're confident we can get some kind of grants and some kind of way to pay for this project to refurbish the courthouse. Now, that's the project you're talking about now, the courthouse, or the old courthouse. Right?
Yes.
We haven't got that far into that yet. We're just starting that process.
Okay.
but there was no grant involved in doing that and getting to the library at that point.
That's my
I
comment.
appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we got a motion on the floor to adjourn.
Some,
I think we had it.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.